Chapter 771. Yao Family. 2. As he resisted the black cloud, he continued to be knocked back as it contracted. This cycle continued until the black clouds showed signs of collapse. Wang Lin's eyes became cold and he opened his mouth to spit out origin energy. This origin energy entered the black cloud and suddenly made it feel like it was filled with endless power, causing it to contract like crazy. However, at this moment, the resistance coming from the blood ancestor also grew endlessly. Sounds of explosions came from inside and the black cloud actually began to collapse. The blood ancestor's muffled roar came through and sounded like roaring thunder in Wang Lin's ears. The blood ancestor's roar came out. "You brat, Wang Lin, are not qualified to seal this, old man." The dense, black clouds collapsed again. They were now very thin and were about to disappear. Once the black clouds disappeared, it meant that the 1 billion soul flag was destroyed. Wang Lin shouted, "3 primary souls appear." Inside the cloud, the 3 primary souls, including the Qilin and 4th soul, immediately condensed and began their attack on the blood ancestor. Through the clouds, Wang Lin could see the Qilin turn into black smoke and surround the blood ancestor. The Qilin's head took shape and bit down on the blood ancestor's neck. The 4th soul was constantly flying in and out of the blood ancestor. Every time it penetrated the blood ancestor's origin soul, it would leave with a large amount of origin energy. There was still that human figure that the last primary soul formed. It turned into black gas that surrounded the blood ancestor, making his movement slow. The blood ancestor's face revealed a fierce expression and red light flashed from his body while he chanted a complex chant. The red light shined like crazy from his body and gradually filled the black clouds until they looked purple. A roar came out from the blood ancestor's mouth. "Blood soul collapse!" The red light around his body was almost demonic, and his origin soul suddenly released unimaginable power. The Qilin immediately let out a miserable groan, and the impact of the force caused it to dissipate rapidly. Terrified of this, it immediately let go and backed up. The primary soul around the blood ancestor collapsed and quickly retreated. Even the 4th soul that penetrated the blood ancestor's origin soul was caught by the blood ancestor. With a merciless pinch, cracks appeared on it before it dissipated and retreated. Little brat Wang Lin. The blood ancestor's eyes were bloodshot as his hand ripped open the black clouds before him. From beginning to end, Wang Lin's eyes were calm. When the blood ancestor was about to step out, he opened his mouth and spat out a ray of yellow light. There was a grain of sand inside the yellow light. The moment the sand appeared, a powerful pressure immediately shrouded the area. In an instant, this grain of sand immediately grew until it was more than 1,000 feet wide. It was like a mountain, but it looked more like a stamp. This object had used a celestial fragment as material and was refined in a furnace formed by the heavens with divine retribution. The moment it appeared, it pressed down on the blood ancestor with an enormous amount of celestial spiritual energy. Crackling sounds immediately came from inside the blood ancestor's body, and the bloodlight around him weakened. The step he was taking to step out was forced back. The stamp formed by the 1,000-foot fragment descended from the sky. The blood ancestor charged out, but after a series of rumbles, he was pressed down under the stamp. When the stamp rose up, the blood ancestor looked weaker, but he was still fierce and red light flashed brightly around him. At this moment, the karma whip suddenly appeared and lashed toward him. With a bang, the blood ancestor's origin soul became more unstable. Just as he was about to retaliate, the stamp smashed down. The blood ancestor's origin soul was about to collapse. He let out a miserable smile and his eyes were filled with madness. Just at this moment, Wang Lin's voice came. "Blood ancestor, I will not kill you and will give you a chance to see Yao Shizhua again. If you explode, you will never see Yao Shizhua again." Wang Lin's voice was cold. The blood ancestor silently pondered, and the madness in his eyes slowly disappeared. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as his hand formed a seal and he shouted, "Collect!" The surrounding black cloud immediately surrounded the blood ancestor. The karma whip also appeared and wrapped around the blood ancestor. The damaged 3 primary souls also appeared and began to devour like crazy. The stamp floated above, although it didn't press down again. The pressure was still there. This pressure caused the black cloud to contract even more rapidly. It contracted to a ball in almost an instant before turning back into a 30-foot long flag in Wang Lin's hand. The 100 feet wide flag spread out and there was a radical change. Before, it was just a black flag with nothing on it, but now there was an image. The blood ancestor-s figure was lifelike with the karma whip around him like a lock and the three primary souls fiercely surrounding him. The blood ancestor-s expression revealed indignation and unwillingness. Just like this, the image on the flag took form. Looking at the 1 billion soul flag, Wang Lin was silent. He didn't feel pride in defeating the blood ancestor, and his heart felt melancholy. He had struggled a lot to defeat the blood ancestor, and was not nearly as calm he seemed on the outside. This fight was filled with life and death moments, and a moment of carelessness would have meant death. This battle was no less dangerous than his escape from the moon gazer serpent. In fact, it was even a bit more dangerous. After all, the moon gazer serpent's intelligence was very limited. There is no great hatred between the two of us. If you had just taken Xianxia with you, you wouldn't have ended up like this. Wang Lin sighed. Unless it was the last resort and he was crazy, he wouldn't have forced the blood ancestor down like this. He was helpless on his matter because, if he wanted to live, he had to resist. If he wanted to continue to exist, he had to kill the blood ancestor that swore to destroy him. Xianxia was the blood ancestor's weakness. In order to seal the blood ancestor, Wang Lin had to use this. In the face of survival, there was no such thing as despicable. Wang Lin looked at the soul flag and said, "Blood ancestor, I respect your fatherly love. I also have a son. If someone were to act against my child, I can understand your anger. However, did you give me a chance to explain? I didn't touch your daughter once while I had her captured. If it wasn't for your daughter plotting against me, why would I dare to provoke the blood ancestor?" He knew that the blood ancestor could hear. Could it be that your daughter Xianxia is allowed plot against me, but I am not allowed to retaliate? You love your daughter, so you don't think about right or wrong and don't think about the cause. Although this is love, it is spoiled love. I gave you a chance, but seeing your blood ancestor held the idea of killing me. In my eyes, your actions are no different from Xianxia's. I understood the job of a father 1,000 years ago, but you still don't understand it even today. Wang Lin looked up at the distance and put the flag away. He didn't bother considering if the blood ancestor understood. He only needed to have a clear conscience, and this was enough. He raised his right hand and pressed against the celestial fragment. There was a flash of yellow light as it shrank to the size of a grain of sand before Wang Lin swallowed it. He patted his clothes as if he wanted to sweep away all the gloominess from the past several days. Then his body turned into a ray of light, and he flew far away. I'll make myself as strong as possible in the thunder celestial realm. My spells are still very lacking. Before, my cultivation level wasn't high enough to be eligible for celestial spells. However, with my current cultivation, I am strong enough to participate in the battles for celestial caves. My goal is a celestial spell. Don't worry, I will definitely go to planet Dong Lin. Whenever there is a trace of hope for you to awaken, Wang Lin, will do everything I can to fight for it. Wang Lin placed his right hand between his eyebrows. His increase in cultivation made him even more confident in reviving Li Muan. Aside from escaping from those old monsters, the other reason he had come to the Alheaven star system was to revive Li Muan. Wang Lin was constantly thinking of Li Muan as he stepped through the void. His goal was the fragment before him. From this moment on, there was one more powerful person to fight over treasures in the thunder celestial realm, Wang Lin. On the fragment before Wang Lin, Li Yuan's escape was reaching its end. His body was like a lamp without oil. If it wasn't for the people behind him taunting him, he would have already died. What made him even more humiliated was that the man behind him was using him as target practice for various spells. The elder beside the youth gave off a ruthless aura. He would sometimes give pointers to the youth, and every time he did, Li Yuan would suffer even more. Only 3 of the 8 flying swords remained. The rest were lost when he used spells with them. The old man had casually caught them, wiped the divine sense off them, and threw them at the youth. Shortly after, the youth would gift them to the woman beside him. A feeling of indignation brewed inside Li Yuan's heart. The woman's crisp laughter and whiny voice made it even worse for him. Along the Hiway, he had suffered even more injuries. He had no time to heal himself and his right arm was beginning to rot. There were white insects moving inside his flesh. These weren't maggots, they were poisonous insects released by the youth behind him. Li Yuan felt that these white insects were inside his body, even inside his origin soul. It was as if his body had become a breeding ground for these insects. Li Yuan's speed became slower and slower. His whole body felt tired, and death aura filled his body. His face was no longer pale but a sickly red. Behind Li Yuan, the old man withdrew his gaze and calmly said, "Young master, this person is out of energy." Wishing for the like button for the VIDEO, hoping to charge through the trending charts for the VIDEO this month. Chapter 772, Yao Family, 3. The youth faintly smiled and said, "He's going to die soon, but this person is pretty good to have lasted 13 days. The cultivators before him only lasted 8 days. Ugly uncle, catch me an illusory yin cultivator next time so I can play for a while longer. That way, my octo soulworms can mature faster." The old man's expression remained neutral as he said, "Okay." It was a very simple word, but it was filled with confidence. Beside the youth, the pretty girl blinked and smiled. "Cousin, how many more swords does that person have?" The youth laughed and wrapped his hand around the woman's waist. "Forget it, these 9 swords are all yours. Not to mention these 9 swords, there is nothing in the Thunder Celestial Realm I can obtain if I want it. Once we find the source of these swords from this person's origin soul, we can take a trip there." The woman smiled and revealed a charming gaze. Her voice was alluring as she said, "Cousin is someone from the Yao family, so you can naturally do it." The youth revealed pride. The Yao family was a name even the Thunder Celestial Temple had to respect. As a member of the Yao family, it was as he said. As long as he saw it, there was nothing he couldn't obtain. At this moment, inside the void, Wang Lin saw the fragment before him. His body flickered and appeared above the fragment. I wonder where Brother Li as Wang Lin's divine sense subconsciously spread out, but his expression immediately became gloomy. Killing intent as powerful as when he faced the blood ancestor exploded once more. There wasn't much focus in Li Yuan's eyes. It was about to dissipate. "About to die whatever, then I'll just die, it will be a relief. It's just that I want to be able to teach Brother Shu the restriction heart." Li Yuan let out a bitter smile. He already couldn't see anything around him. There were several white insects moving inside his pupils. The strange thing was that Li Yuan felt no pain. "Even if I die, as someone of the Li family, I have to die with dignity." Li Yuan's eyes focused once more and revealed firm determination. He turned around and looked at the 3 people casually chasing him. There was strong hatred inside Li Yuan's eyes. "I have no hatred against the 3 of you. If you wanted my magical treasures, you could have just taken them, but you toyed with me like this. When I die, I'll turn into a vengeful ghost to vent this hatred." Li Yuan slapped his bag of holding and the remaining 3 swords flew out, giving off fierce sword energy. With the point of his finger, the 3 swords flew toward the youth. "Impudent!" The youth sneered as his right hand reached out, and a blood hand immediately appeared before him. With one grasp, he caught all 3 flying swords. Li Yuan's expression was fierce. The moment the youth caught the flying swords, his right hand formed a seal and pressed between his eyebrows. A ray of black light as thick as an arm came out between his eyebrows. The black light immediately divided into countless more lines, and as his hands formed seals, they formed restrictions. The moment these restrictions appeared, they divided into 18. In an instant, these restrictions surrounded Li Yuan. He coughed out a large mouthful of blood that landed on the restrictions. However, there were many white insects inside the blood. It was very shocking. After absorbing his blood, these restrictions swiftly flew toward the youth. These restrictions were very fast and rapidly approached the youth. At this moment, the youth had barely managed to grab hold of those 3 swords with his spell. When he saw the restrictions fall from the sky, the youth didn't panic. He let out a cold snort and his eyes were filled with contempt. The old man beside him took a step forward and raised his right hand. Dense origin energy immediately surrounded the area. "Break." The old man only said one word. In an instant, the restrictions were surrounded by origin energy and then collapsed. However, after they exploded, they didn't disappear. They turned back into black lines. The black lines condensed together before flying straight for the old man, carrying a destructive aura. The old man slapped his bag of holding, causing an ancient mirror to appear, and he pointed it toward the black line. There was a flash. It was as if the entire world had darkened and all the light had condensed around the ancient mirror. The black line immediately collapsed. Li Yuan's body trembled, and he coughed out a large mouthful of blood. His body was filled with death aura. He muttered, "It isn't T that my Li family S restriction is lacking. It S because I used too much of my restriction heart helping Brother Shu." After that, I had no time to recover it. How else could this broken mirror be able to stop the restrictions? However, Brother Shu has helped my family greatly, so I don't regret it. If I die, then I'll die. Li Yuan let out a miserable smile. At this moment, the old man stepped forward and threw a kick without even looking at Li Yuan. There was a crackling sound as Li Yuan coughed out more blood and his body landed on the ground. His eyes were dim. That kick had scattered the remaining celestial spiritual energy inside his body, making it so he couldn't retaliate anymore. "Junior Master, this person is no longer dangerous. You can attack now." The old man stepped back and his expression was cold. He didn't feel shame at all from attacking an ascendant junior as an illusory yin cultivator. The youth had just barely managed to get a hold of the 3 flying swords, and it was only because Li Yuan's connection with the 3 swords was lost. He caught the swords and directly gave them to the woman beside him. The youth stepped forth with a sneer and said, "Let me see exactly where you found these celestial swords." The youth raised his right hand and pressed down on Li Yuan. "Hurry up, cousin." The woman smiled as she watched all of this. Her eyes were filled with an alluring charm as she played with the celestial sword in her hand. As for the old man, his expression was as calm as usual. Just at this moment, just as that youth named Yao's hand pressed down on Li Yuan, a ripple suddenly appeared beside him. The originally calm old man's expression suddenly changed at this moment. He charged forward and immediately shouted, "Young master, retreat!" The youth was startled. In an instant, an unimaginable killing intent came out from inside the ripple. This killing intent was so powerful that it caused the entire world to turn cold. There was even ice falling from the sky. The youth's expression turned deathly pale. Before he even had time to search Li Yuan's soul, he immediately retreated. However, at this moment, a figure walked out from the ripple. The moment the figure appeared, the killing intent reached its peak. Thundering rumbles suddenly echoed in the sky. The moment the youth retreated, the figure from the ripple stepped forth and pointed at the youth's chest. A wave of cracking sounds echoed and the youth coughed out a mouthful of blood. All of the bones inside his body were broken and he was thrown away. The figure closed in once more, and the finger landed between the youth's eyebrows. Rich origin energy entered the youth's body and caused all the celestial spiritual energy inside his body to collapse in an instant. Cracking sounds echoed and the youth's expression became pale. In his eyes, that finger had replaced the world and became the controller of his life. His body was thrown into the air and flew away in an arc. Cracking sounds still came from his body in the air, and he coughed out mouthfuls of blood that turned into blood mist. The origin energy in his body surged like crazy. It first destroyed his celestial spiritual energy, then it destroyed his cultivation base, and finally forced all the blood in his body out from his pores. The current him was like a person made of blood in the air. His body gave off a dense blood mist. The origin energy inside his body didn't stop and continued to rage inside his body. All of the muscles in his body were destroyed inch by inch, and all of his internal organs were instantly crushed. This still didn't end. The origin energy was too strong, to the point that it was impossible to measure. After destroying the internal origins, the origin energy rushed to his head. His skull collapsed along with his brain. At this instant, the youth named Yao's flesh completely collapsed. When he was only halfway up the air, his entire body collapsed, disintegrated, and dissipated. His origin soul was filled with confusion and unimaginable fear. He even had the impulse to cry. At the moment his body collapsed and his origin soul appeared, the origin energy exploded. This origin energy tore the origin soul apart and completely destroyed it. However, the origin soul didn't dissipate. The origin energy rapidly condensed the origin soul into a fist-sized ball of light. The ball instantly returned to Wang Lin's hand and he pressed it between Li Yuan's eyebrows to help Li Yuan nourish his dissipating origin soul. "Who gave you the qualifications to hurt my friend?" Extremely cold words slowly came out of Wang Lin's mouth. All of this happened in an instant. It was fast beyond imagination. The old man had just moved forward, and before he could get close, everything had already ended. Cold sweat appeared on the old man's forehead. His calmness was gone, and his indifference had already collapsed. His calmness and indifference had completely disintegrated. His eyes were filled with horror and even a trace of fear. He wasn't able to clearly see the other person at all earlier. In particular, the rich origin energy that appeared with the ripple made him suck in a breath of cold air. What frightened him even more was the aura that came from inside the ripple. The aura of the youth that came out was actually perfectly merged with the world. Too terrifying, I know all the corporeal yang cultivators, but who is he? His face was pale and sweat dripped down his forehead. The killing intent from the other person was so intense that it caused his mind to tremble. He subconsciously stepped back a few steps, and even had the impulse to immediately escape. Not far away, the woman was completely stunned. The scene before her caused her brain to become temporarily blank. Shu Brother's shoe on the ground, Li Yuan's eyes were filled with excitement as he struggled to speak. Help me kill them. The video schedule for first is up, and I ask all friends not to be stingy. Remember to share Leo. If you're capable, friends, please be prepared to support Leo with a like. Chapter 13 Days. Li Yuan's voice was filled with piercing hatred. If this hatred could become corporeal, it would immediately erupt to vent the anger he had suffered in the recent days. Wang Lin nodded, and his gaze went over the illusory yin old man, and landed on the dumbfounded woman. She was holding Li Yuan's celestial swords. He didn't even waste time talking to them, and took a step. This step moved him over several hundred feet, and he appeared before the woman. The woman had just recovered from the shock. She personally saw the Yao Youth's body collapse from just one finger from this person. The cracking sounds from the Yao Youth's body still echoed in her ears. With one finger, he had caused his origin soul to collapse. The Yao Youth's origin soul was captured and had its consciousness wiped away until it was only a blob of origin energy. This scene completely destroyed her mind, making her cower in terror. When she saw Wang Lin moving toward her, she immediately panicked. Filled with terror, she let out a hysterical scream. In her eyes, Wang Lin was no longer a person, but a demon, a terrifying soul-devouring demon. She almost subconsciously retreated. There wasn't even the slightest thought of resisting. The only thing in her brain was escape, escape, escape. Ever since she was little, she had never been this terrified. Not only did it destroy her mind, it also left a deep rift in her Tao heart. Even if she was lucky enough to escape, her cultivation level would drop greatly with almost no chance of increasing again. Wang Lin's expression was cold and his gaze was chilling as he closed in. In his eyes, the woman's speed was too slow. At this moment, the illusory yin old man's eyes lit up. He didn't try to save her, he quickly retreated. As one finger pressed down between her eyebrows, her pupils shrank and her fear reached its peak. Origin energy rushed into her body. She wasn't thrown back and instead trembled and was frozen in place. Popping sounds came from inside her body. She was very familiar with this sound. It was exactly the same as the ones that came from the youth's body earlier. Her origin soul formed a ball of light and flew out from between her eyebrows. Wang Lin grabbed it with his right hand and threw it at Li Yuan. The origin energy nourished his origin soul and caused his injuries to recover slightly. The woman's body collapsed and disappeared completely, until the moment she died. She still didn't understand why the person that they were chasing didn't inform them that he had a friend like this in the Thunder Celestial Realm. As her body dissipated, all of the flying swords and bags of holding fell down on the ground. Wang Lin raised his head and looked at the figure of the rapidly escaping old man before revealing a sneer. He took a step forward and suddenly disappeared as he fused with the world. The illusory yin old man's mind was completely shaken by the sudden appearance of Wang Lin. He didn't have any chance at victory, so he quickly fled. However, at this moment, a ripple appeared before him. Powerful origin energy came out from inside and caused him to stop. Wang Lin's figure walked out from inside. You were next. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. The moment he appeared, he raised his right hand and a bolt of purple thunder appeared. The surrounded area was surrounded by purple mist after the purple thunderbolt appeared. Lightning moved through the mist and quickly gathered on the bolt of purple thunder. The bolt of thunder was as thick as an arm and quickly shot toward the old man. The old man's expression changed greatly as he quickly retreated. His hand quickly formed seals and immediately released a red flame. This flame was extremely hot and quickly spread around him, forming a flame shield. The bolt of thunder descended and landed on the flame shield. There were crackling sounds as the flame shield immediately collapsed and the bolt of thunder landed on the old man's body. He coughed out a large mouth of blood, and his face turned pale. As he quickly retreated, he was almost out of his wit. His scalp tingled as he felt panic set in and the aghast in his heart was reaching its limit. The old man retreated and quickly said, "Senior, let me speak." Wang Lin's expression was cold as he moved forward and coldly said, "How long did you chase after my friend? Speak!" The old man retreated and quickly said, 13 days, senior. This matter was all because of the young master from the Yao family. I tried to persuade him, but our statuses are different, so I was unable to stop him." The old man was extremely terrified of this person. A corporeal yang cultivator was not someone he could resist, even though he was only one step away from the corporeal yang stage himself. 13 days Wang Lin's eyes filled with killing intent, and in the blink of an eye he overtook the old man. His 2 fingers formed a sword and pointed at the old man's left arm. The old man's expression changed. Just as he was about to dodge, Wang Lin said one word. "Stop!" This word was like the voice of the devil, as it landed in the old man's ears. He immediately felt an unimaginable amount of origin energy surround him. At this instant, he couldn't move his body an inch. Even his origin soul felt like it was in water and became clo. This is the first day. Wang Lin's finger landed on the old man's left arm, and with a burst of origin energy, the old man's left arm exploded with a bang. The powerful origin energy exploded once more, causing the arm to shatter completely. The old man revealed a struggling expression. He wanted to struggle, but he couldn't even move his body an inch. The second day, Wang Lin's finger landed once more, this time on the old man's left leg. The origin energy rushed in and more than half of the old man's left leg was blown off. The old man's veins bulged, and he revealed a ferocious gaze. However, behind that ferocious gaze, he was filled with fear. His terror of Wang Lin had filled his mind. This is the third day. Wang Lin lifted his foot and directly stepped on the old man's right leg. The leg immediately collapsed with a bang. Of the old man's 4 limbs, 3 of them had already collapsed. The old man let out a miserable groan. The severe pain almost drowned him. The simulation of the pain allowed his origin soul to move a bit. Origin energy immediately cycled through his body, and he showed signs of recovering. As Wang Lin withdrew his foot, his finger pointed at the old man's right arm. Origin energy rushed in, and the only surviving limb immediately disintegrated. This is the 4th day. This didn't end. The stop spell was dissipating, and the old man was about to regain his movement. Just as origin energy filled his body and he was about to retreat, Wang Lin's cold voice came once more. "Stop!" The old man let out a sad cry. The other party's voice was the sound that would end his life faster and make him fall into the abyss. If he knew it would have turned out like this, he wouldn't have touched a hair on Li Yuan's head. At his moment, his mind was in a trance, and he vaguely recalled the words that this person said the moment he appeared. "Who gave you the qualification to hurt my friend?" These words echoed in his mind like rumbling thunder. After the old man's body was stopped for the second time, Wang Lin stood in front of the old man. Wang Lin's finger quickly moved and pointed at the old man's body, causing blood to come out from the corner of the old man's mouth. The 5th day, the 6th day, the 7th day. At the end, the old man's chest was a bloody mess. All of his bones were broken and blood mist gushed out of his chest. His body had lost all vitality. "This is the last day." Wang Lin's hand turned into a palm and pressed down on the old man's forehead with a ruthless expression. A crisp crackling resounded as the old man's body completely collapsed and dissipated into a blood mist. His origin soul charged out. As he trembled in the air, he shouted, "The Yao family won't let you off." Wang Lin's eyes were cold, and he had a thought. He slapped his bag of holding, and the 1 billion soul flag appeared. With a shake, the flag opened up, revealing the blood ancestor's unwilling image. Wang Lin calmly asked, "Do you recognize him?" The old man's origin soul was startled. After taking a careful look, his eyes immediately bulged and revealed horror. Although he didn't recognize who it was, this person was 70% similar to the Yao family ancestor. Without waiting for the old man to speak, Wang Lin already knew the answer from the old man's expression. He stepped forth as his origin energy surrounded the area and immediately locked the old man's origin soul. His hand reached out. The old man's origin soul couldn't escape at all and was immediately pulled back. Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and he used the soul search spell on the old man. The powerful origin energy made it impossible for the old man to struggle. A moment later, Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light as he wiped the old man's consciousness from the origin soul, turning it into a ball of origin energy. Wang Lin's body landed next to Li Yuan. He held the ball of origin energy and pressed it between Li Yuan's eyebrows. Brother Li, I'll give you an opportunity. Whether you can reach the illusory yin stage or not will depend on you. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he pressed his hand against Li Yuan's chest. Gather. With a roar, the small white insects were immediately pulled out of Li Yuan's body. These insects were hideous and gave off a fishy smell. Wang Lin's expression was calm. With one pinch, all of these small insects collapsed one by one. The VIDEO has reached first place in the ranking but still can't maintain the top position. Urgently wishing for all friends to push a round of VIDEO, Leo is extremely grateful. Chapter 774. Withered Dao Li Yuan had already reached the peak of the late stage of Ascendant. The reason he hadn't reached the illusory yin stage yet was because his body lacked origin energy. Wang Lin had just nourished him with 3 origin souls. In particular, one was the origin soul of an illusory yin cultivator, which was filled with origin energy. Thanks to this, the chance of Li Yuan making a breakthrough had increased greatly. After placing some restrictions around Li Yuan, Wang Lin sat beside him and began to ponder. The blood ancestor is indeed someone from the Yao family. It turns out the Yao family is very powerful, especially the Yao family's blood god. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. I haven't been lacking powerful enemies ever since I started cultivating, so adding a blood god isn't much. Wang Lin knew that even if he knew about the blood god beforehand, he simply couldn't just leave Li Yuan to die. Moreover, since he had already offended the blood ancestor, he made a decision. As long as I master that spell to merge with the world, even if Tuo Sen comes, I will be able to escape. However, some of the memories inside that old man are interesting. They might be useful to me. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a decisive gaze. He sat down and began refining the origin energy inside his body. When I absorb all the origin energy in my body, I will be extremely close to the real second step, the early stage of Nirvana Scryer. Wang Lin silently pondered for a moment before waving his hand. The 3 bags and several flying swords flew to him. These 3 bags of holding belonged to those 3. Wang Lin's eyes first fell on the swords that he and Li Yuan had found inside the storage space. After scanning them with his divine sense, Wang Lin's thoughts stirred. These 9 swords immediately flew into the air and stabbed into the ground. 8 of them formed a circle while the last one was in the middle. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding, and the 9 beast bones immediately flew out. The largest beast bone landed at the center of the circle, while remaining 8 surrounded the 8 swords forming the circle. They were arranged exactly how Wang Lin had found them. He carefully looked at the 9 beast bones. Wang Lin had checked them before, and there seemed to be some sort of branding that prevented his divine sense from imprinting and controlling them. Back then, he suspected that this beast bone treasure might require some special way of activation. After he placed the beast bones back with the swords, he immediately noticed the difference. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and went into the 8 small beast bones. The moment his divine sense touched them, the 8 bones immediately shook and a suction force came from them. Wang Lin's divine sense immediately felt this suction. His eyes lit up, and his origin energy went into his divine sense. Following the suction, his divine sense split into 8 parts and went into the 8 bones. That suction seemed to have no end and continued to suck at his divine sense as if it wanted to devour his entire origin soul. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin pulled back his divine sense from the beast bones. Then his hands formed seals, and he laid countless seals in the surroundings. Then his origin energy spread out and surrounded everything within 10,000 feet of him. A white mist filled with his origin energy appeared. If an outsider passed by and saw this mist, they wouldn't do anything reckless, because this mist was filled with pressure from origin energy. Even illusory yin and corporeal yang cultivators would be extremely cautious. This meant that there was a second step cultivator inside this mist that didn't want to be disturbed. If someone attempted to enter, they would be attacked by the origin energy inside the mist. After forming the origin energy mist, Wang Lin pondered for a bit before he opened his mouth and allowed the fragment stamp into the mist. Only then did he feel relaxed and sat down. His ancient Thunder Dragon origin soul charged out and rushed toward the 8 beast bones. The moment his origin soul closed in, suction force came out from the 8 beast bones. Wang Lin's origin soul split into 8 parts again and entered each beast bone. After absorbing all of Wang Lin's origin soul, the 8 beast bones released a demonic glow. The demonic light became more and more bright, until 8 rays of blue light shot out from the beast bones toward the sword in the middle. This blue light also contained his origin soul. His origin soul underwent a change he didn't understand and was sent into the flying sword. The sword trembled and released a burst of sword hymns. Wang Lin's origin soul fused back into one and immediately felt powerful sword energy charging toward his origin soul. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed, and the origin energy inside his body spread out like a storm, dissipating all the sword energy. However, the next moment, more sword energy appeared as if it would never end. Something is wrong. This is a restriction matrix. Wang Lin's eyes began to deduce the restriction and he simply sat down. He created an origin energy shield to block the sword energy and completely ignored it. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He had seen through this restriction. With a thought, countless restrictions appeared around him and spread out in all directions. At this moment, the sword surrounded by the 8 beast bones flew out. It flew above the beast bones surrounded by the 8 swords. The sword pointed down and sword energy immediately shot out. This sword energy divided into 8 rays of sword energy, which went into each of the 8 flying swords. Wang Lin's origin soul was once more divided into 8 and entered the 8 celestial swords. The experience from before appeared once more, but this time there was even more sword energy. Wang Lin's origin soul was divided into 8, and every single piece experienced the same thing. 3 days later, all 8 swords shot out sword energy toward the largest beast bone in the center. Wang Lin's origin soul came out with the sword energy and entered the beast bone with 4 spikes. His origin soul fused into one inside the beast bone, and at the same time left his imprint inside the beast bone. A kind of enlightenment appeared inside Wang Lin's soul. He had incomparable understanding of this beast bone, as if it was part of his body. After a long time, Wang Lin's origin soul flew out from the beast bone and back into his body. Wang Lin opened his eyes and revealed a look of shock and excitement. It is indeed worthy of being a celestial treasure. Without this specific method, there is no way to leave your imprint on it. Once you successfully leave your imprint, you immediately gain the knowledge to use it. Wang Lin stood up, waved his hand, and the large beast bone immediately flew toward him. This object is called the Withered Dao Pear. It is extremely powerful and can be considered a true magical treasure. Unfortunately, it was damaged in the hands of its previous master in a battle against an ancient god. Adding on the fact that the previous master died, even now it still hasn't been fully repaired. However, its power is still amazing, and it can be considered one of my most powerful treasures. Wang Lin's right hand reached out and the beast bone seemed to gain life. It rushed toward Wang Lin and disappeared in his hand. A moment later, a beast bone tattoo appeared on the back of Wang Lin's right hand. It was very lifelike. He didn't withdraw the origin mist and looked at Li Yuan. Most of Li Yuan's injuries had healed, and his origin soul was absorbing the origin energy to make the final breakthrough. Wang Lin wasn't too sure if Li Yuan would succeed or not. While waiting for Li Yuan to awaken, Wang Lin opened the bags of the 3 people he killed. The woman's bag had some stuff inside, but nothing that caught Wang Lin's attention. After taking out the celestial jades, Wang Lin put it aside. As for young Master Yao's bag of holding, there was some stuff inside as well. After looking through it, Wang Lin's eyes narrowed and landed on one item. It was a paper talisman. Compared to this, the other things meant nothing. This was the second talisman like his he had found since coming to the Al-Heaven star system. After pondering for a while, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and the other talisman appeared in his hand. The 2 talismans were similar in size, but the symbols drawn on them were different. What exactly is this? Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and scanned the 2 talismans. His eyes narrowed as he noticed faint origin energy fluctuations coming from them. He wouldn't have been able to notice it with his previous cultivation level. Interesting. Could this item be a treasure as well? Wang Lin silently pondered for a moment before putting the talismans away. He had a feeling they weren't ordinary. When he picked up the last bag of holding, his eyes lit up and he muttered, "The old man's mind was messy, but his objective in the Thunder Celestial Realm was very clear. He was going to take the young master of the Yao family to the collection pavilion to get a celestial spell." Wang Lin learned from the old man's memories that there was a fragment that was sealed by the combined forces of the 4 families of the Al-Heaven star system with inheritances from the celestial realm. On this sealed fragment there was a collection pavilion. The pavilion stored celestial spells, and they were still well preserved. However, this collection pavilion was created by the previous Thunder Celestial Realm Celestial Emperor and his subordinates. The pavilion had its own rules, and whether one could get a celestial spell depended on luck. The 4 great families with celestial realm inheritances couldn't break these rules. They could only seal the fragment and then open it each time to let their family members try their luck. For a very long time, this collection pavilion has been a place exclusive to the 4 great families, and no outsiders were allowed. The Yao family hadn't only sent 1 team to the Thunder Celestial Realm, but 10 groups. Collection Pavilion. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Just at this moment, Li Yuan's breathing became rough, and he slowly opened his eyes. He looked ahead and sighed, "Thank you, Brother Shu, but it looks like I'm not fated to reach the illusory yin stage. My origin soul couldn't withstand that much origin energy." Li Yuan lowered his head and looked at his broken arm. After he said that, he became silent. Wang Lin raised his right hand and all the origin mist withdrew. He carefully looked at Li Yuan and smiled. "Brother Li, you shouldn't underestimate yourself. The origin energy inside your body is nourishing your origin soul. Once you absorb all that origin energy, you will reach the illusory yin stage. That day may come fast or slow, but it will certainly happen." Li Yuan's eyes glowed, and he nodded. He stood up and bowed toward Wang Lin. "Brother Shu, I owe you a lot. I will remember this in my heart and won't forget it." Li Yuan wasn't one to speak much, but this came from his heart. He only felt gratitude toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin faintly smiled as his right hand grabbed the only bag he hadn't searched. He scanned it with his divine sense and threw it at Li Yuan. At the same time, the 9 swords flew into the air and landed next to Li Yuan, returning them to their owner. "Also, keep that bag of holding. I believe the things inside will be useful to you." Li Yuan nodded and put away the swords. He picked up the bag and scanned it with his divine sense before he took something out. It was the ancient mirror. This is a restriction-breaking ancient mirror. There aren't many of these left, and they can break a majority of restrictions. As he spoke, he threw it toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin accepted it with a smile and put it inside his bag of holding. Li Yuan hesitated and asked, "I can see through Brother Shu's cultivation anymore. It is obvious you improved greatly compared to before. Was the blood ancestor destroyed by the storage space?" "The danger of the blood ancestor has been resolved. Although he isn't dead, there isn't much difference." Wang Lin said it calmly, but when Li Yuan heard this, he was startled and meaningfully looked at Wang Lin. With his wisdom, he could tell from Wang Lin's words that Wang Lin's rapid increase in cultivation level had something to do with the blood ancestor. Wang Lin looked at Li Yuan and smiled. "Brother Li, I am going to search the Thunder Celestial Realm and search for all the celestial spells. Are you willing to help me break restrictions?" With his current power, aside from a few select individuals, not many in the Thunder Celestial Realm were his match. If Li Yuan was around, Wang Lin could easily protect Li Yuan. Not to mention, if Li Yuan had enough time to use his restrictions, he wouldn't even need Wang Lin's protection. Wang Lin had his own plans for inviting Li Yuan. Li Yuan obviously knew a lot more about the Thunder Celestial Realm than him. Also, Wang Lin couldn't compare to Li Yuan in terms of restrictions, so it would be a lot easier to search for celestial spells with Li Yuan. Li Yuan's eyes revealed joy as he smiled and said, "Since this is Brother Shu's wish, I'll do my best to help you. As long as I have enough time, I am certain I can break all restrictions here. For example, Brother Shu, there once was a celestial ruin here." Li Yuan pointed ahead at a plain. The ground was filled with weeds and dead grass, and the wind blowing across the plain created rustling sounds. No matter how one looked at it, it was extremely ordinary. Li Yuan's single arm formed seals. His body was now filled with origin energy, so some restrictions that he couldn't use before due to the suppression of the slave imprint could be used now. The sky darkened and the plain before them looked like a painting with its cover taken off. When Li Yuan's restrictions fell, the plain shattered, exposing the ruins of a city. A broken stone tablet stood before the ruins, and there were 3 ancient words on it. Celestial Welcoming Palace. Celestial spells can be used with just the formula. By using my Li family's Annihilation Restriction Heart, I can use traces of celestial spells to reverse engineer them. This method injures the user's body, so my Li family doesn't casually use it. However, if Brother Shu needs help, then I'll definitely help. Urgently wishing for all friends to push a round of video, Leo is extremely grateful. Chapter 775. Dark Hole. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he looked at the broken tablet. He jumped forward and arrived before the tablet. Li Yuan followed closely after and carefully looked at tablet before looking at the ruins. He then smiled. Brother Shu, if I'm not wrong, this celestial welcoming palace was once a trade spot for celestials. Wang Lin nodded and calmly walked toward the ruins. Along the way he could see many wreckages of various buildings. This palace was very big. It was almost the size of a mortal city. The ruins were extremely quiet, with only the occasional wind that would blow through the broken buildings. The sound created by the wind sounded like someone was sobbing. Small vortexes would form when the wind blew by, gently blowing away the dust. It could be seen from the wreckage that there were many pavilions along the road, but right now they were heavily damaged. There were even remnants of restriction fluctuations coming from them. After carefully searching the ruins, Wang Lin found nothing surprising. It was clear that people had already been here during the countless times the Thunder Celestial Realm had been open. The largest shop in these trade palaces are always to the east. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and looked east. The wreckage on the east side of the palace was even more severe. It was impossible to see the appearance of a shop anymore, as there was only one wall left. Li Yuan walked very fast and quickly arrived next to the ruined building in the east. He squatted down, picked up some of the rubble and carefully examined it as if he was calculating. When Wang Lin calmly arrived, his divine sense spread out and found nothing. Shortly after, Li Yuan's eyes narrowed. Then he pointed at a spot and said, Brother Shu, attack this spot with spell. Wang Lin didn't waste time. He raised his hand and purple thunder shot out like a wild dragon toward the spot Li Yuan pointed at. The purple thunder landed with a bang and the earth trembled, causing the rubble to move. A pattern without any fluctuations appeared on the ground. This seemed to be a formation that was carved into the ground. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light. Li Yuan took a few steps forward and arrived next to the formation. After looking at it, he smiled. Brother Shu, as far as I know, even the shops of Celestials had hidden rooms. It seems this shop was not an exception. Wang Lin nodded and said, I believe the formation that manages this hidden room has been active for so long that all of the celestial spiritual energy has disappeared. This is why there were no fluctuations coming from it at all. Li Yuan squatted down and wiped away a large amount of dust. After calculating a bit, he nodded. That's correct. From the looks of this dust, it seems like no one has come here for a long time. It is, as Brother Shu said, this formation has lost all of its celestial spiritual energy and became a dead formation. He then explained, a dead formation is like this. Once the celestial spiritual energy is lost, it can't be opened anymore. However, I have a way of restoring it. Brother Shu, I need some time, so please wait a moment. With that, Li Yuan knelt down, bit his left finger, took a deep breath, and pressed his finger against the formation. Origin energy came from his left hand. Blood also came out from the wound and entered the formation before it slowly spread. Wang Lin calmly stood on the side and felt melancholy in his heart as he looked at the wreckage. The Thunder Celestial Realm must have been very prosperous. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to form a trade shop of this size. There were many shops inside this palace. Standing here, Wang Lin could imagine that countless years ago. Celestials arrived on celestial treasures and celestial beasts and traded for their respective needs here like mortals. The Celestials from back then could have never imagined the celestial realm would collapse. While silently pondering, Wang Lin let out a sigh. He remembered the huge handprint he saw in the Rain Celestial Realm, that handprint spell that could shatter the earth. Unfortunately, Li Yuan is unable to go to the Rain Celestial Realm. I wonder if he is able to reverse engineer that celestial spell. As time slowly passed, Li Yuan's face gradually became paler. The blood from his left finger gradually spread across the formation. The formation was injected with energy, and then a subtle ripple appeared. Li Yuan's eyes lit up. Then he pointed to the spot between his eyebrows, and a black line came out and landed on the formation. His hands quickly moved, and were about to continue releasing restrictions. However, just at the moment the black line touched the formation, a beam of light shot into the sky. The beam appeared almost instantaneously and could be clearly seen from far away. Li Yuan was startled. Before he sent out the restrictions in his hand, they dissipated. How could this be? This is the first time the celestial formation was opened. The first opening. As Li Yuan stared at the beam of light, his eyes became brighter and brighter. Wang Lin turned slightly as he glanced at the beam of light. It appeared too abruptly without any warning, so there was no time to stop it. From Li Yuan's expression, it seemed like he was surprised as well. Wang Lin calmly said, "Brother Li." Li Yuan took a deep breath. The beam of light dimmed and was going to disappear soon. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out, and he immediately noticed something. Suppressed celestial spiritual energy seemed to have burst out from the beam of light. Li Yuan stared at the fading beam and said, "If the celestial formation was opened properly, this wouldn't have happened. However, this is the first time it has been opened, and the spirit of the formation needs to be released before it can be opened." "The first time?" Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. "That is correct. This should be the first time this formation has been opened without the proper method. Once this beam is gone, we can go in and see what's inside." Li Yuan stared at the formation and licked his lips. Wang Lin nodded, and his expression suddenly changed as he looked into the distance. He saw 2 rays of sword light coming from the distance, and they gave off powerful celestial spiritual energy fluctuations. They had obviously seen the beam of light and wanted to see what had happened. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and his right hand reached toward the ground. Large amounts of bricks flew up and then exploded into dust. Then Wang Lin scattered the dust in all directions. In almost an instant, the dust formed a ring with a radius of 10,000 feet. It isolated the area within from the outside. Wang Lin's eyes landed on the fading light beam and he calmly said, "Those who enter will die." Although his voice was soft, when it fell in those 2's ears, it was like roaring thunder. Those 2 were at the mid-stage of ascendant, so their minds were shaken from the voice. Even the sword lights under their feet became unstable. The 2 of them stopped outside the ring, and didn't dare to take half a step inside. The 2 of them looked at each with pale expressions, before quickly putting away their swords. One of them respectfully said, "The 2 of us are juniors from the Zhao family of the Western Domain. We will obey Senior's command and 1 take a step inside." The beam began to dissipate faster and faster. Li Yuan's eyes lit up as he stepped forward and came closer to the formation, waiting for the beam to completely dissipate. Even the 2 cultivators outside widened their eyes and looked carefully. They had never seen such a scene, but after pondering a bit, they guessed that a treasure had appeared here. Although they didn't dare to go steal it, they couldn't let go of this opportunity to broaden their horizons. It was because the discharge from spirit of the formation was too great that all the cultivators on this fragment saw it. The moment every cultivator saw this light, the first thought they had was that a treasure had appeared. Almost all of the cultivators gathered toward this beam of light with that in mind. Those 2 from the Zhao family were already close, so they were the first to arrive. Shortly after, several rays of light came from all directions. They all had varying cultivation levels, but none of them were at the illusory yin stage. Most of them were at the peak of the late stage of ascendant. When these people arrived, they immediately saw the ring made of dust. They stopped and didn't dare to move in closer. However, their gazes immediately fell on the dissipating beam of light, and their eyes revealed greed. However, when they saw Wang Lin, their expressions immediately changed. They could feel origin energy from Wang Lin's body, causing them all to retreat. None of them dared to come within 10,000 feet. Wang Lin didn't pay those people any attention. Even Li Yuan didn't pay too much attention. A moment later, the beam of light disappeared. At the moment the beam of light disappeared, a dark hole appeared on the surface of the formation. Waves of celestial spiritual energy came out from inside. Even the people 10,000 feet away could clearly feel it. Rays of greedy gazes instantly gathered on the dark hole. A subtle aura immediately appeared from all the cultivators 10,000 feet away. If Wang Lin wasn't there, they would have immediately rushed in. The temptation from that dark hole was very great for cultivators. All of this was because of the unknown. No one knew what was inside, but because of this, that subtle feeling became even stronger. Just at this instant, a ray of sword energy carrying origin energy came from the horizon. It headed straight toward the light as if that ring didn't exist. The eyes of the cultivators 10,000 feet away all revealed a mysterious light. The origin energy from that sword energy meant that another cultivator at the second step had arrived. As the origin energy spread, a yellow figure quickly closed in while standing on a ray of sword energy. Embarrassed, I've been remiss in saying thank you. Thank you all for pressing the like button. Thanks to the fellow Taoists for their praise. Chapter 10,000 Feet Forbidden Area. Trespassers will die. There was a person standing on the sword energy. He was wearing a large yellow robe that blew in the wind and looked quite elegant. At this level of cultivation, someone's outer appearance no longer reflected their age. He looked about 30 years old and had an ordinary face. However, his narrow eyes revealed a flash of coldness. Rich origin energy came from inside his body. It was obvious he had reached the peak of the illusory yin stage. As he closed in, the people before him immediately scattered and didn't dare to obstruct him. He was coming closer and closer to the 10,000 feet area. It wasn't that he didn't see the ring of dust, or didn't know the meaning. But his speed didn't slow down at all as he charged into the 10,000 feet area. The origin energy from him charging in caused the dust to be blown backwards. This scene caused all the surrounding cultivators to pay attention. As far as they knew, Wang Lin was a powerful cultivator, and that yellow-robed young man was also a powerful cultivator. These two would definitely fight because of the dark hole on the celestial formation. This kind of battle was not common. There were even cultivators holding on to the idea of the two of them seriously injuring each other so they could gain the benefits. Li Yuan's expression changed slightly. While he was anxious, Wang Lin's calm voice entered his ears. "Brother Li, go down first." Li Yuan didn't speak and directly went into the dark hole. The moment he entered, the yellow-robed young man closed in. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he raised his right hand and waved at the void. A bolt of purple thunder instantly appeared. The moment the purple thunder appeared, a purple mist appeared around it. The bolt of purple thunder shot toward the young man in yellow robes, along with the purple mist. The young man's pupils immediately shrank. It wasn't that he didn't see Wang Lin, but because his status in his family was special and his family members were close behind him, he didn't pay much attention to Wang Lin. He let out a laugh as his hand formed a claw, and 5 strands of black gas appeared and shot toward the thunder. The 5 strands of black gas immediately surrounded the thunder. "Devour!" As the yellow-robed young man shouted, the 5 black gas strands immediately turned into 5 black dragons and devoured the thunder. In the blink of an eye, the thunder was devoured and returned to the young man's side. As the 5 black dragons circled the young man, they immediately began to grow. In the blink of an eye, they turned into 500 feet long dragons. As a result, the young man's aura suddenly increased. The yellow-robed young man slowly said, "Fellow cultivator's attack is pretty good. Please wait a moment, for I, Tang Yanyun, wish to explore the hole the celestial left behind." How about it? It was already extremely difficult for the young man to say something like this. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Lin's cultivation level was higher than his and could be compared to his brother's, who was at the corporeal yang stage, he wouldn't have said this. The moment he said that, the expressions of the cultivators nearby changed. One of them exclaimed, "Tang family? Could it be the southern domain's Tang family?" At this moment, all of the cultivators seemed to realize something. Wang Lin coldly looked at the person and calmly said, "You not qualified." Tang Yanyun was startled. He had thought about how the other party would refuse and how his expression would change after hearing he was from the Tang family. However, he could have never imagined that this person would be so arrogant. His expression turned gloomy and he laughed. "If that's the case, then I won't disturb you." With that, he began to retreat and thought, "This person's cultivation level is higher than mine. I'll back off now and wait for my brother to come. It won't be too late to act then." Although his Tang family wasn't one that had an inheritance from the celestial realm, it was still not small. Many of them had come to the Thunder celestial realm this time, and rather than separating, they stuck together. He was only here to scout the situation. Wang Lin's expression was neutral, and he took a step forward. With one step, the surrounding 10,000 feet area was filled with rich origin energy. His speed wasn't T-fast, but he calmly walked toward Tang Yanyun step by step. Tang Yanyun's expression became grim, and he immediately backed up. At this moment, Wang Lin opened his mouth and calmly said, "My thunder is not something you requalified to devour." At the moment he spoke, the black dragons next to Tang Yanyun immediately let out painful roars. Thunder filled their bodies and explosions came from inside them. In an instant, one of the black dragons exploded. Following that were 4 more explosions as the remaining 4 black dragons also exploded. Under the impact of the powerful force, Tang Yanyun's expression changed greatly. Both of his hands formed a seal and a black dragon mark appeared between his eyebrows. A strand of black gas came out from his body and surrounded him. Only by doing this was he able to protect himself from the impact. As he sucked in a breath of cold air and cold sweat came from his forehead, anger swelled up in his heart. He felt like he hadn't shown any hostility, and it was unlikely for the other party to have detected his thoughts. However, before he had time to ask, Wang Lin's eyes became cold. Wang Lin raised his right hand, and the beast bone tattoo on the back of his hand began to move. It moved along Wang Lin's finger and shot out. In an instant, a giant beast bone tattoo appeared before Wang Lin, and its 4 horns gave off a cold aura. The moment it appeared, it shot toward Tang Yanyun. Tang Yanyun retreated with a gloomy expression, and the black dragon flashed once more between his eyebrows and black mist appeared. This time, even more origin energy came out, and then the entire black mark flew out from between his eyebrows. It turned into a black dragon before it opened its mouth and mercilessly attempted to devour the beast S-bone. This black dragon was about 1,000 feet large and gave off a natural pressure the moment it appeared. It was covered in numerous dragon scales that had runes painted on them. It was as if it was trying to devour the world, and endless origin energy fluctuations came from the black dragon. Origin dragon devour. After Yang Yanyun shouted, he retreated without stopping. However, just as the black dragon attempted to devour, 2 ghostly flames appeared in the 2 eye sockets of the beast bone. The moment they appeared, it was as if the beast bone was alive, and an evil aura suddenly appeared. This evil aura was too strong, but it only appeared for an instant before disappearing without a trace. All of this happened too quickly. The moment the evil aura dissipated, the black dragon's eyes suddenly opened wide as if it was filled with terror. Its huge body froze and a gray color began to spread from its tail. In almost an instant, its entire body was gray. This gray was the color of stone. This black dragon formed by a spell became a stone statue in an instant. Even the origin energy around it was turned into stone. The black dragon fell from the sky and smashed into the ground with a bang. This scene seemed to cause everything to stop. All of the surrounded people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air and were dumbfounded. What kind of treasure is this? Tang Yanyun stared at the fragments of the stone statue with eyes filled with terror. The hearts of the cultivators 10,000 feet away pounded like crazy as they couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. Fear swept through their hearts like a storm. The 10,000 feet area was like a primal beast that made them not dare to even take half a step inside. All these first-step cultivators couldn't help but take a step back. It was as if the distance of 10,000 feet wasn't far enough, and they were afraid they would be affected. Those cultivators with thoughts of benefiting when the 2 seriously injured themselves were covered in cold sweat and gave up on the idea. In particular, the Zhao family brothers secretly felt glad they didn't enter, because if they had, they would have died. These 10,000 feet were no longer mere distance but a forbidden zone of death. At this moment, these cultivators clearly remembered Wang Lin's appearance. Wang Lin was now deeply rooted in their minds. Wang Lin took a step forward and raised his right hand. He immediately withdrew the beast bone and it turned back into a tattoo on the back of his right hand. His speed didn't reduce as he took one step and appeared before Tang Yanyun. His 2 fingers were filled with origin energy, and he was about to press them down. Tang Yanyun's body trembled and his eyes were filled with aghast. He attempted to escape without any hesitation, but Wang Lin let out a cold snort. The dense origin energy immediately squeezed and made all types of instant movement impossible. This spell was something Wang Lin had invented. By using the pressure of origin energy, he could make all instant movement spells useless. His fingers landed directly between Tang Yanyun's eyebrows. At this moment, several rays of light came from the distance, and a roar came from inside one of the rays of light. "Kill him, and you will be buried with him?" Wang Lin slightly frowned as his finger landed and origin energy rushed into Tang Yanyun's body, causing it to immediately collapse. It was turned into a mist of blood, and even his origin soul collapsed. "Any trespasser within 10,000 feet will die." Wang Lin turned around and walked into the dark hole. The 10,000 feet area was his forbidden area. As long as he was here, no one could enter. The Wang Lin of now was qualified to say such words. At this moment, Li Yuan's exclamation came from inside the dark hole before his figure quickly shot out from inside. After he appeared, he looked at the shattered black dragon statue before he looked at Wang Lin and sent a divine sense message. "Brother Shu, I have collected all the treasures inside. I also found a secret passage, but I don't know where it goes." The rays of light in the sky landed, revealing 4 figures. There were males and females among them. One of them was very handsome, but his lips were a bit thin, and his eyes were gloomy. If Shen Gonghu was here, he would immediately recognize him as Tang Yanfeng, the one who mocked Shen Gonghu at the gate to the celestial realm. 10,000 feet forbidden area? Who do you think you are? One of the middle-aged men next to Tang Yanfeng sneered and stepped into the 10,000 feet forbidden area. One of the youths behind him, who had an arrogant expression, also stepped into the 10,000 feet area. Wang Lin's gaze was calm as he turned around and looked at the middle-aged man, feebly asking, 4,000 words, does that count as a major chapter? Could it be hoping for the like button for the video and the followers too? Chapter 777, My Name is Shu Mu. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and he retreated a few steps back into the dark hole. His left hand formed a seal and then pointed between his eyebrows. Black lines immediately flew out, turned into restrictions, and landed around him. His cultivation level wasn't high enough to directly help, but give him enough time to place restrictions, and he could ensure no one outside could get in within a short period of time. As a result, he was able to open a path of retreat for Wang Lin. Wang Lin's gaze wasn't the same as the one he looked at Shen Gonghu with when he saw a hint of the 3rd step. However, his gaze was filled with confidence because of his cultivation level, sealing the blood ancestor, and killing 2 illusory yin cultivators. This was a gaze that seemed to contain everything. The middle-aged man sneered. When Wang Lin looked over, not only did he not stop, he took another step. This step crossed dozens of feet, and he headed directly for Wang Lin. What a joke. There is actually someone in the Thunder Celestial Realm who dares to threaten people with a 10,000 feet forbidden area. However, just as he spoke, he suddenly stopped because he saw Wang Lin's gaze. This gaze was filled with a cold calmness. It was as if this gaze was looking at a dead person. However, it was very different for the middle-aged man. His body suddenly stopped. It was as if everything around him had suddenly disappeared and this gaze was the only thing left. There was no killing intent inside that gaze, only calmness. However, that calmness caused the middle-aged man's mind to tremble. All of the origin energy inside his body activated like crazy, as if that was the only way to counter the sense of crisis coming from that gaze. Cold sweat came from his forehead. The moment that gaze landed on him, he immediately felt like he was completely seen through. It was as if he was naked. This kind of feeling was extremely strong. In the end, he felt as if his skin had disappeared, and his internal organs and origin soul were exposed before this gaze. In addition, as this feeling got stronger and stronger, he felt as if his origin soul was undergoing a radical change. It was as if his soul was being wiped from his origin soul and it was now just a mass of origin energy. He never had this kind of feeling ever since he became a cultivator. It was as if his body and origin soul were disappearing layer by layer. In the end, he even had the illusion that he couldn't even feel his own existence. A mouthful of blood came up his chest, his face was filled with a sickly red, and he immediately coughed out a large mouthful of blood. This caused his eyes to regain clarity, but there was fear within those eyes. Only a short period of time had passed from when Wang Lin looked over, and when the middle-aged man coughed out blood. It happened so fast that no one saw what had really happened. At the moment the middle-aged man coughed out blood, Wang Lin moved. He calmly took a silently step, but the middle-aged man's expression immediately changed, and he began retreating without any hesitation. He didn't know why, but he felt like Wang Lin's step had landed on his origin soul. This kind of feeling shook his mind greatly. He dared to step forward before because they had 4 people and Tang Yanfeng was there, so he wasn't too afraid. However, right now he felt like he was facing a powerful corporeal yang cultivator by himself. It was as if he would without a doubt die if he didn't retreat. Wang Lin's expression was calm. After he took 1 step, he lifted his feet and took 10 more steps toward the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's expression paled. He felt like every one of those steps were like thunder, and his mind was about to collapse. His retreat was almost not within his control. He was subconsciously retreating non-stop. He could even feel his heartbeat become faster and more intense each time Wang Lin's foot landed. He felt like his heart was already filled with cracks. After 10 steps, Wang Lin paused, raised his foot, and landed as he coldly looked at the middle-aged man. When that step landed, the middle-aged man coughed out a large mouthful of blood, and he quickly retreated as if he had gone crazy. He didn't even realize that he had already retreated past the 10,000 feet forbidden area set by Wang Lin. When Wang Lin's last step landed, his heartbeat had reached its limit. Thump, 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 bang. His heart collapsed. The origin energy inside his body went out of control inside his body and directly tore apart his origin soul. The surroundings were completely silent. Tang Yanfeng's eyes became extremely cautious. Ever since he had started cultivating, extremely few people at his level made him cautious. Not only was he cautious, but he was very shocked. Even though it would be easy for him to kill the middle-aged man, to do so with just a glace and 10 steps was difficult. This spell made him suck in a breath of cold air. With his insight, he had naturally seen that the middle-aged man's death had to do with origin energy. The other party's control of origin energy was ingenious. He had used the surrounding origin energy to squeeze in, create pressure, and eventually crush the heart of the middle-aged man. The woman beside him also had a gloomy expression. The 10,000 feet forbidden area was right before her, but she didn't dare to step forward. It was as if this 10,000 feet forbidden area was a real land of death. Wang Lin's gaze withdrew from the middle-aged man and switched to the youth that had come into the forbidden area right after the middle-aged man. The youth's expression became pale. He was even weaker than the middle-aged man. He had just entered the illusory yin stage, and his cultivation hadn't stabilized yet. When he saw Wang Lin's gaze, he retreated out of the 10,000 feet area without any hesitation and said, "Senior, please don't blame me. Junior knows he did wrong. From now on, Junior won't even take half a step into the area. If I violate the promise, then punish me like the man before." As he spoke, he raised left hand and his origin energy activated. His pinky immediately exploded into a mist of blood. Wang Lin looked at the youth and withdrew his gaze. The youth let out a breath of relief and his heart pounded like crazy. Compared to his pinky, his life was more important. The excitement he had from entering the illusory yin stage had all disappeared. In his heart, he reminded himself that he had to be cautious in the future. Wang Lin didn't look at the rest of the people outside the feet area. He turned around and walked toward the dark hole Li Yuan was in. Just at this moment, Tang Yanfeng suddenly said, "Fellow cultivator, please leave your name." "Shumu." Wang Lin's voice came from inside the dark hole. Then light came from the formation and completely sealed the entrance. Shumu Ilil, remember this name. Tang Yanfeng wanted to attack, but in the end he endured because he still didn't feel confident in winning. Leo dreams of getting a lot of likes for this video, having many followers, plenty of shares, and everyone praising his good reading and the number of words he can read. So happy. Chapter 778, Upheaval of Order. Shumu, all of the surrounding cultivators remembered this name as well. It was something they wouldn't forget in their life. Shu, the woman beside Tang Yanfeng frowned and her expression became gloomy. Tang Yanfeng's face was expressionless as he stared at the sealed dark hole and slowly said, "You also thought of it." The woman nodded and said, "Although there are many families named Shu in the All-Heaven star system, most are unknown. For a corporeal yang cultivator to appear, and one this strong, it has to be the Shu family from planet Donglin. The descendants of planet Donglin haven't appeared in a very long time. Could this person be?" The woman's pupils shrank, and she didn't continue speaking. Tang Yanfeng silently pondered. After a moment he calmly said, "He is very strong." Even if he isn't a descendant of planet Dong Lin, his strength isn't far away from it. Our Tang family should avoid provoking him. Then what about the 2 dead family members? The woman looked at Tang Yanfeng. If they died, they re-dead. Tang Yanfeng's expression was cold as he turned around and left. He even gave up on the dark hole under the formation. The woman nodded and followed after. As for the young man who had just entered the illusory yin stage, he quickly followed as well. He congratulated himself on making the right decision earlier. Someone who can even make the young master feel dread is not someone I can provoke. Shu Mu. After Tang Yanfeng's group left, the surrounding cultivators began to hesitate. Although Wang Lin had entered the dark hole, none of them dared to enter the 10,000 feet area. Even though the source of the dust was gone, it was as if this area had really become a land of death. After a long time, these people retreated one by one. In the end, none of them dared to take the risk. After all, the scene from before had already frightened them greatly. The name Shu Mu slowly spread among their friends as these people left. Only the formation on the ground gave off a faint light. After a long time, that light gradually dimmed until there wasn't any reaction left, and it became a dead formation. When Li Yuan placed this formation, he calculated how to prevent outsiders from entering. His first choice was naturally using the dead formation. The dark hole under the formation wasn't too big, but deep within it lied a passage. Although it was dark, a cultivator could clearly see everything. Li Yuan was in front and Wang Lin was following behind as the 2 walked down the tunnel. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and he said while he walked, "Brother Shu, I can confirm that we are the first ones to enter this place after the celestial realm's collapse. Look at the celestial spiritual energy fluctuations coming from the walls. If other people been here and the tunnel had been open for a long time, all of this celestial spiritual energy would be gone." Wang Lin didn't speak, but his divine sense spread out toward the front. However, he didn't spread it out too far, because this was after all the remains of a celestial, so he needed to be cautious. Otherwise he might easily cause a restriction to activate an attack. Li Yuan's voice was filled with doubt as he quickly said, "Brother Shu, in the dark hole from before, I found 3 treasures, but there is something unusual about them. I'll take them out later and we can analyze them." As Wang Lin spoke, his divine sense slowly spread ahead of them. This tunnel had no branching paths, just one road that went down. This tunnel seemed to have no end. The 2 of them had walked for more than half an hour without any end in sight. Li Yuan couldn't help but feel surprised. How deep is this place? Could this place be an overlapping fragment? With those doubts in mind, Li Yuan moved even faster. Wang Lin followed closely after and gradually frowned harder. As they continued to move forward, a strange feeling appeared inside his heart. This was a feeling of someone pressing their finger between his eyebrows and causing an unknown pain to appear there. The deeper they went into the tunnel, the stronger this feeling became. After half an incense stick of time, Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. He grabbed Li Yuan and immediately stopped. Li Yuan was startled as he turned around and looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin asked, "Does Brother Li have a strange feeling?" Li Yuan shook his head and said, "I don't have any feeling. What does Brother Shu mean?" Wang Lin pondered for a bit before he looked at Li Yuan. His gaze fell between Li Yuan's eyebrows, and he suddenly said, "Brother Li, disperse the restriction heart between your eyebrows." Li Yuan nodded. The source of his restriction heart was between his brows. The restriction heart slowly dissipated, and the moment it disappeared, Li Yuan immediately became pale. His eyes became fierce and were completely bloodshot. He sucked in a breath of cold air and the restriction heart reappeared. Only then was he able to calm down. His eyes were filled with a gas as he said, "I felt it." Wang Lin's eyes shined and slowly said, "It looks like it isn't only me who has this feeling." With that, he lifted his right index finger, and the origin energy in his body surged, and he began to draw. Curved lines began to form as Wang Lin's index finger moved. These lines released a silver glow as Wang Lin continued to form the symbol. However, the line at the bottom remained broken, as if the symbol wasn't complete. Wang Lin asked, "Does Brother Li recognize this symbol?" "It's a bit familiar." Li Yuan stared at the rune and began to ponder. After a long time, he sat down and began carefully searching through all the symbols he had studied and seen. Half an incense stick of time later, Li Yuan frowned and said, There are 4 symbols that are similar. However, this symbol is obviously not complete, so it is impossible to judge which of the 4 it is. Brother Shu, where did you obtain this symbol? Wang Lin didn't answer, but his divine sense continued to carefully spread. After a long time, he raised his right hand and continued drawing the symbol from the broken ends on the bottom. Li Yuan stared at the symbol and became more serious. In the end, he was filled with shock as he recognized this symbol. Wang Lin slowly said, Brother Shu, this symbol is formed by the tunnel we are in. I spread out my divine sense along the way and was able to draw it. Brother Shu means that someone made the tunnel in the shape of this symbol. Li Yuan stood up. His cultivation level wasn't high enough to spread his divine sense to cover the tunnel, but he didn't doubt Wang Lin's words at all. Brother Shu, this is a restriction rune among celestial restrictions. However, this is an extremely rare rune that can be used by itself. Only when combined with other restrictions will it have any effect. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he asked, what effect? Li Yuan shook his head and said, unless we reach the end of the tunnel and see how the rune is drawn, it's impossible to determine what restriction this is. Wang Lin silently pondered for a while as he looked at the passage before him and said, since that is the case, let us go down and see. As he spoke, he led the way. As Li Yuan followed behind, his left hand continued to form seals, and he continued to deduce the restriction. Their speed this time wasn't fast, but they didn't stop. As they moved forward, the feeling from between Wang Lin's eyebrows became even stronger. This made him look very gloomy. After half an hour, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. His divine sense had found the end. When his divine sense clearly saw the end, Wang Lin took a deep breath and immediately rushed out. There was a turn before them, and he immediately stopped after the turn. Li Yuan followed closely behind him. At this moment, he saw the end with his divine sense and began to ponder. The end of this passage was a vortex as tall as a person. It gave off a 5-colored glow, and as it rotated, the surroundings were shrouded in this 5-colored light. Li Yuan stared at the vortex as his left hand continued to move. He suddenly stopped and said, Brother Shu, I have figured it out. The composition of this rune only has one use, and that is healing. And if I'm not wrong, this shouldn't be the only place with runes like. There should be 9 in total, and these 9 runes form a giant healing formation. This can be considered a grand undertaking in the Thunder Celestial realm. As Li Yuan said this, his eyes lit up and he looked at Wang Lin. There was one thing he didn't say, but he believed Wang Lin would be able to understand. Wang Lin calmly said, healing formation Brother Li means that at the center of the formation, someone has been healed by this formation over the countless years. What Brother Shu said is correct. Only this answer can explain everything, although I can tell if there is really someone using it to heal. If there is someone, then it must be. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light, and he slowly said, a celestial. Although this vortex leads to the formation's center, it is sealed from the inside. However, I am confident in opening it. Li Yuan stared at the vortex and revealed a strange light in his eyes. He slowly stepped forward and lifted his left hand. Wang Lin frowned. Li Yuan wasn't someone who was reckless, so how could he be so thoughtless? Wang Lin stepped forward next to Li Yuan and seized him. Li Yuan turned around and looked at Wang Lin. That strange light appeared inside his eyes again, and he slowly said, Brother Shu, didn't you want celestial spells? What's a better source for celestial spells than a celestial? Perhaps that celestial is really weak right now. We can go in and capture that person. A restriction formed in his left hand and he pushed it forward. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed, and he directly crushed the restriction. Origin energy surged from his right hand into Li Yuan, causing him to directly pass out. After doing all of this, Wang Lin turned around and looked at the vortex. He pondered for a moment before grabbing Li Yuan and slowly retreating. Just after he retreated less than 30 feet, the vortex suddenly stopped rotating. A gloomy aura came out and an eyeball appeared at the center of the vortex. At the same time, a strange voice echoed inside Wang Lin's mind. Do you want to learn celestial spells? 3,000 words in a major chapter. Wish that the like button for the video would break. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Chapter 779. Jai Realm reappears. Wang Lin stopped. He silently stared at the eye that appeared inside the vortex. Let your friend release that celestial restriction and I'll teach you a celestial spell. Wang Lin silently pondered for a moment and slowly asked, "Who are you?" The voice didn't answer Wang Lin's question. Instead, it slowly said, "Do you want to learn or not?" Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he grabbed Li Yuan and quickly retreated. It wasn't that Wang Lin wasn't moved by the offer of the voice in his mind, but he was a cautious person. Things like this were never as simple as they appeared. Moreover, even if he really learned the celestial spell, given Wang Lin's personality, he wouldn't make the same mistake after the ordeal with the celestial slaughter art. Only celestial spells I find myself can be learned. I'll never learn those that others give me. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with determination. Origin energy filled his body as he quickly left with Li Yuan while watching the eye. Not long after Wang Lin left, the vortex began to rotate once more. The eye at the center gloomily gazed at where Wang Lin retreated and slowly shrank back. I don't like cautious people, a ray of red lightning shot out from the eye. In the end, the eye disappeared back into the vortex and everything returned to normal. Only the red lightning still remained. It chased after Wang Lin inside the tunnel. Wang Lin moved extremely fast as he returned to the dark hole with Li Yuan in hand. He pointed at Li Yuan's chest several times before Li Yuan opened his eyes. At first, Li Yuan's eyes were filled with confusion, but soon it was replaced with clarity. Many thanks, Brother Shu. I was attracted by the strange force inside the vortex. Li Yuan pondered for a bit and realized why he had acted so abnormally. This place is too strange. It is best we leave now. Wang Lin looked at the passage behind him and frowned. Li Yuan nodded and didn't inquire more. His left hand formed a seal and placed a restriction on the exit. Just at this moment, Wang Lin's expression changed and both of his hands formed a seal. Thunder surged out from his origin soul and condensed in his hand. Wang Lin pushed his hand forward, and he used the thunder to completely block the tunnel. At this moment, there was a flash of red lightning and all of the thunder disintegrated. The red lightning charged directly at Wang Lin, causing his expression to change greatly. There was a very familiar feeling coming from inside the red lightning. This feeling came from his soul and caused his pupils to contract. This is G Realm. He retreated without thinking, and as he retreated, he merged with the surroundings. The red lightning charged directly into Wang Lin's body. At the same time, the formation at the entrance opened. Wang Lin grabbed Li Yuan and directly flew out. There wasn't even time to close the entrance as they disappeared into the void. Wang Lin and Li Yuan appeared more than 30,000 kilometers away on the same fragment. Wang Lin's body trembled and his face turned pale. He then opened his mouth to spit out a grain of sand. The sand immediately grew and a giant stamp appeared above them, giving off waves of pressure. Wang Lin immediately sat down in the lotus position and raised his right hand. The beast bone appeared. It started circling around Wang Lin and gave off a demonic glow. "Brother Li, protect me." After Wang Lin finished speaking, he immediately closed his eyes. His hands formed a seal each, and he placed them on his knees. Origin energies surged like crazy into his divine sense. Li Yuan's expression was serious as he slapped his bag of holding and immediately took out the 9 celestial swords. After scattering them, he looked at Wang Lin. Although he didn't know what had happened to Wang Lin, he had never seen Wang Lin so serious after reuniting with him. Li Yuan pondered, "What kind of spell is that red light?" The red lightning raged inside Wang Lin's origin soul, and it was filled with killing intent. However, before it could explode, it was immediately surrounded by layer after layer of Wang Lin's dense origin energy. This prevented the red lightning from being able to display its full power. However, this was the G realm, and it was simply too powerful. Although it was surrounded by origin energy, the origin energy was rapidly disintegrating from the inside. It was obvious that the origin energy would soon become ineffective. It was because Wang Lin was extremely familiar with the G realm that he didn't panic and continued to layer more origin energy over it. Because of his prior experience with the G realm, his origin soul was not completely defenseless against the G realm. After all, he used to be an owner of the G realm. As a result, this red lighting didn't immediately erase his origin soul and gave him a chance to resist. If it was someone else, even if their cultivation level was higher than Wang Lin's, they would, without a doubt, die. It was fortunate that there was a large amount of origin energy inside Wang Lin's body that he hadn't absorbed, so he wasn't lacking in origin energy. With great perseverance, he constantly wrapped more origin energy around the red lightning until it matched the speed at which the origin energy was disintegrating. While Wang Lin was confronting the G realm, at the dark hole tens of thousands of kilometers away, one of the cultivators carefully approached the dark hole with hesitation. This was one of the cultivators that was watching Wang Lin. He didn't leave but wandered around the area. He hoped that maybe, after Shumu left, he could find a treasure Shumu didn't fancy, but could be of use to him. He saw Wang Lin and Li Yuan charge out from far away. After hesitating for a long time, he slowly closed in. He stared at the hole and then clenched his teeth before carefully entering the dark hole. Several hours later, he came to the end of the tunnel. When he saw the vortex, he was startled. The next moment, his eyes were filled with a mysterious light, and he slowly approached the vortex. Just at this moment, the eye appeared once more at the center of the vortex. "Come closer, come. Come," the eerie voice echoed inside the mind of the cultivator. As he closed in, he completely lost himself. After a long time, a muffled sound came from inside the tunnel. The cultivator exploded his origin soul next to the vortex. None of his flesh and blood scattered. It was all absorbed by the vortex. All traces of him disappeared without a trace. The vortex showed signs of collapse after absorbing the flesh and blood and suffering the explosion. Cracks appeared on the seal in the vortex, and after a long time, more and more cracks appeared before it completely collapsed. A red light shot out from the vortex and immediately covered the entire tunnel. The tunnel immediately shrank to a rune countless times smaller and was inhaled into the vortex. Then the vortex slowly disappeared. Of the 9 great seals, 5 of them had been broken over the years. With my strength now, I can finally activate the remaining 4 to lure people in to break them. There was a hint of joy in that eerie voice as it slowly dissipated. At the same time, among the countless fragments across the Thunder Celestial Realm, powerful celestial spiritual energy fluctuations came from 4 fragments. These fluctuations gradually caused cultivators to gather toward those spots. However, there were seals blocking the entrances. Unless there was a restriction grandmaster like Li Yuan, it would take some time to open them. When Wang Lin opened his eyes, his body was soaked with sweat. His expression was pale as he sucked in a breath of air and pressed his right hand on the ground. At this moment he needed but a thought to force that red lightning outside his body. But his eyes lit up, and he withdrew his right hand. If I simply expelled the Jai realm, it would be such a pity. It's better to keep it with me because perhaps it can save my life at a key moment. Wang Lin pondered a bit and looked at his origin soul. The trace of G realm would cause him to lose a lot of origin energy to keep it under control. But compared to the origin energy, the value of this G realm was too great. Wang Lin's heart skipped a beat as he silently pondered for a bit and made a decision. He stood up and withdrew his treasure. Just at this moment, he felt a tremble from the ground. This tremble came from the tunnel tens of thousands of kilometers away. Li Yuan saw that Wang Lin had recovered, but before he could ask any questions, he also felt the tremble. The 2 of them didn't speak and immediately flew away. Brother Shu, inside that tunnel while flying, Li Yuan looked back. Wang Lin said, "Don't mention that anymore. It is better to leave this place as soon as possible." He moved even faster until he and Li Yuan arrived at the edge of the fragment and charged into the void. In the void, Wang Lin looked ahead and said, "Brother Li, I am going to a place called the Collection Pavilion. If there are any restrictions there, I hope Brother Li can help." Comparing to looking for celestial palaces to explore, it was better to go to the Collection Pavilion from the Yao family member's memories. There were definitely celestial spells there. Li Yuan nodded and said, "I'll do my best to help." He didn't know why, but after what happened in the tunnel, he had a lingering sense of fear, as if something big was about to happen. This feeling was very vague, but it was like a thorn had stabbed into his heart and wouldn't go away. Wang Lin calmly said, "Many thanks." Thinking about where the pavilion was, Wang Lin turned around. Origin energy spread out and wrapped around Li Yuan. Wang Lin took Li Yuan and flew through the void. Wang Lin thought deep inside his heart, from the old man's memories, The fragment housing the pavilion is sealed by the 4 great families. If someone is not from the 4 great families, they can enter. I hope Li Yuan can break the seal. With Wang Lin's origin energy, the 2 of them turned into a ray of light and flashed through the void. They didn't go to any other fragments but closed in on the fragment at the center of Celestial Realm. 3,000 words in a major chapter, hoping to be shared, hoping to get the like button hit for the video. Chapter 77, Old Man Jimo. Wang Lin frowned. Just as he was about to retrieve the whip, a small red sword flew out of the ghostly sword. The red sword slashed down at a speed several times faster than its main body. The whip quickly split into 2. It transformed back into pieces of wood and fell from the sky. The middle-aged man revealed a murderous look. He waved his right hand and the sword flew toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin frowned. He grabbed Zhang Hu and threw him back. Then, he quickly backed up. The flying sword was speeding toward Wang Lin. An illusion appeared at the tip of the sword. Like lightning, the sword suddenly appeared in front of Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression changed. He waved his hand and a piece of jade appeared in it. The jade glowed and a blue light screen appeared, blocking the sword. The sword slashed down and the light screen started to crack. It couldn't hold on much longer. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He spat out a mouthful of spiritual energy into the light screen. The light blue color started to turn green, and its faint color started to become more solid. The crack started to seal back up, blocking the attack of the sword, but a faint crack appeared on the jade. What is this? The middle-aged man's eyes narrowed. He looked at Wang Lin and said, "It seems that you were not only at the layer. However, even if you at the foundation establishment stage, you won't be able to get away alive from my flying sword." With that, the middle-aged man pointed with his finger while his eyes revealed a serious expression. He waved his hand and the flying sword flew back and entered the scabbard again. This time, it went halfway in and turned from blue to black and flew out of the scabbard again. A cold light flashed across Wang Lin's eyes. This was the first time Wang Lin had fought someone who was at the same cultivation level as him. Although their cultivation level was the same, his opponent obviously had better magical treasures. Wang Lin could feel that the sword had gotten a lot more powerful, and Zhou Peng's jade wouldn't be able to withstand it. He didn't hesitate. He slapped his bag of holding and took out an ancient jade. The moment the ancient jade appeared, it released a majestic aura. This ancient jade was the life-saving treasure Liu Wenju gave to Wang Lin. Wang Lin didn't even bat an eye. He spat out a mouthful of spiritual energy and pointed at the ancient jade. Instantly, numerous golden symbols floated out of the ancient jade. Wang Lin's expression didn't change at all. He coldly stared at the middle-aged man. Killing intent appeared in his eyes. The middle-aged man's pupils shrank. He hesitated a bit, then clenched his teeth and took out 2 golden orbs. The 2 golden orbs flew into the flying sword. The flying sword was currently black and covered in shining golden spots. The sword circled around once, then flew toward Wang Lin. Several black swirls appeared near the sword. The coldness in Wang Lin's eyes intensified. He didn't even bother with the sword, he just pointed at the ancient jade before him. The golden symbols on the ancient jade suddenly glowed and came out of the jade. The symbols lined up. There was a total of 9 symbols. The flying sword was flying toward Wang Lin. He formed a seal with his hand, and 3 of the symbols began to glow. The 3 symbols quickly appeared around the sword. Lightning connected the 3 symbols, forming a prison and trapping the flying sword. The flying sword was like a trapped beast, releasing a strong buzzing sound. It charged around in the cage, and every time it collided with the cage, the symbols would shine. The middle-aged man's expression finally changed, and he said, This is a core treasure?" Wang Lin had learned from Situ Nan what a core treasure was. It was simply a treasure made by a core formation cultivator. If a nascent soul cultivator made a treasure, it was called nascent treasure. The middle-aged man quickly revealed a look of fear. He waved his hand and grabbed toward the scabbard. Wang Lin let out a cold smile. The seal on his hand changed. The remaining 6 symbols instantly started to shine and charge toward the middle-aged man. The fear in the middle-aged man increased greatly. He quickly took out several pieces of jade, hoping that they would increase his chances of escaping. Before the pieces of jade could even activate, they exploded under the effect of the golden symbols. They didn't manage to stop the golden symbols one bit. The middle-aged man revealed a look of despair and shouted, Fellow cultivator, I am old man, Jimo's disciple. Before he could finish speaking, the golden symbols appeared before him. The first symbol pressed into his chest. His chest quickly caved in, causing him to cough out a mouthful of blood. The second symbol followed quickly after. The middle-aged man bled out from his orifices and his chest had been pierced through. The third symbol quickly followed as well, and the middle-aged man's body completely disintegrated along with his bag of holding. Only the sword scabbard was completely unharmed and fell to the ground. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He pointed toward the ancient jade. Suddenly, the three remaining golden symbols paused and entered the ancient jade again. Also, after the middle-aged man died, the frequency of the collisions from the flying sword slowed down until it eventually stopped moving. Wang Lin waved his hand. The three symbols trembled. Two of the symbols collapsed and only one of them followed Wang Lin's call and returned to the jade. Wang Lin carefully put the piece of jade back into his bag of holding. This piece of jade originally only had one attack, but with Sichunan's help, he managed to split it into 9 attacks. Although each attack was much weaker, it allowed him to use it more often. After doing all of that, he took a deep breath. His forehead was covered in sweat. This was the most vicious fight he has had since he started cultivating. He activated the attraction technique and retrieved the flying sword and scabbard to examine them. Wang Lin, I didn't T-act before not because I didn't want to, but because my nascent soul essence has a limit, so it can be carelessly wasted. Plus, you have to experience these life and death battles to help you grow in the future. This time, Sichunan's voice was serious for once. Wang Lin nodded. He didn't say a word as he curiously checked out the treasure in his hand. Situnan explained, "This flying sword is really strange. That little baby could even display its full power. However, the real treasure here is that sword scabbard. Tonight there will be 2 to 3 new chapters. Leo will do his utmost to make up for the chapters missing from the last 2 days. Chapter 780, Xianxia. G-Realm, what kind of person is sealed inside that 5-colored vortex? How could that person have the G-Realm?" While flying through the void, Wang Lin was unable to calm down. Although he looked calm, there were huge waves setting off in his heart. The peak of the G-Realm is the nascent soul stage. The person I met was someone from the planet 5 Elements. That person had the G-Realm and said it was a gift from a dead friend. In addition to him, this is the second time I encountered the G-Realm. Wang Lin began to ponder as he passed by many fragments through the void toward the center of the celestial realm. Could it be? Is there really a way to make the G-Realm evolve? Wang Lin's heart skipped a beat, and his mouth even dried up. That few hundreds years of having the G-Realm allowed him to have a profound understanding of that incredible power. Ji-Dao. Wang Lin began to ponder. He knew too little, so he wasn't able to analyze it all. He let out a sigh and no longer thought about this and focused his mind on the collection pavilion. Flying through the void should have been a very boring affair. After all, the void was very large, and most of the cultivators spent most of their time on the fragments. They only passed through it when going from one fragment to another. However, over the half-month Wang Lin and Li Yuan were moving through the void, they saw many rays of light near and far. At first, Wang Lin didn't pay too much attention, but after 1 month of moving forward, they gradually saw even more cultivators. Most of these cultivators were at the ascendant stage, and occasionally there would be an illusory yin cultivator. They were either by themselves, in groups of 2 or 3, or together with their family members as they quickly passed by. This phenomenon attracted Wang Lin and Li Yuan's attention. The cultivators all had various expressions, but the slight excitement in their eyes was strikingly similar. These cultivators moving around also saw Wang Lin and Li Yuan. When some of them recognized that Wang Lin's cultivation level was beyond ascendant, their eyes showed vigilance, and they all went around them, not wanting to cause trouble. "Brother Shu, something is wrong. Could some big event have happened?" Li Yuan began to ponder. He had seen too many cultivators along the way. This was a very unusual event in the void. Moreover, as the two continued to head toward the center, they saw even more cultivators. It was as if all the cultivators in the Thunder Celestial Realm were gathering on one fragment. They were not heading to the same location. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he slowly said, "It is 4 directions." What exactly happened? Li Yuan frowned as he looked at the cultivators flying by. Wang Lin pondered a bit. He didn't say anymore but took Li Yuan and flew even faster. Just at this moment, more than 10 rays of sword energy flew by in the distant void. Rich origin energy came from these rays of sword energy, causing all of the surrounding cultivators to not dare block their path. The 10 rays of sword energy gave off a dominating pressure as they swept across the area. Even the families with a high number of cultivators immediately backed away when they saw those 10 rays of sword energy. There's no need to mention the solo cultivators. The moment they saw the rays of sword energy, they immediately stopped and didn't dare to get in their way. In an instant, almost all of the cultivators before Wang Lin looked at the 10 rays of sword energy and then rapidly made way. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he silently looked at the more than 10 rays of sword energy. These rays of sword energy didn't stop and directly flew off into the void. However, just as they were about to disappear, one of them suddenly turned and flew toward Wang Lin. At the same time, all of the sword energy rays stopped, turning into various male and female cultivators. All of them had cultivation levels beyond ascendant. Most of them were at the illusory yin stage, and only a few were at the corporeal yang stage. After revealing their figures, they all looked at the ray of sword energy flying toward Wang Lin, and their eyes were filled with doubt. Not only them, but the surrounding cultivators all looked at the ray of sword energy and followed its movements. Li Yuan's expression changed slightly as he raised his left hand and prepared a restriction. Only Wang Lin's expression was still extremely calm as he slightly nodded toward the ray of sword energy flying over. The ray of sword energy stopped 200 feet from Wang Lin. The light dissipated and revealed a person about 30 years old. His face was white without any facial hair and was slightly handsome. However, his pair of phoenix eyes made everything uncoordinated because they gave off a feminine feeling. He was wearing a golden-purple robe and stood upright. He clasped his hands at Wang Lin, and his attitude was extremely respectful as he said, "Junior John Kongli greets Senior." The moment he spoke, everyone who heard it was startled, and all of their gazes fell on Wang Lin. At this moment, although there weren't many cultivators here, it wasn't any better than tens of thousands of people watching. The gathering of all those gazes didn't cause Wang Lin's expression to change at all. He was still as calm as water. John Kongli was very famous, so some of the cultivators around naturally recognized him, even those that didn't feel the powerful origin energy coming from him. Then, after hearing his words, they immediately recognized him as John Kongli from the Southern Domain. Who is this person? His cultivation level seems similar to John Kongli's. How could he be called senior by the famous John Kongli of the Southern Domain? I heard John Kongli has already become a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple. To be called senior by him, could this person be an elder from the Thunder Celestial Temple? Various thoughts appeared in the surrounding cultivators' hearts. In particular, those more than 10 people who were with John Kongli all looked at Wang Lin with an incredible gazes. They were each the most talented people in their families, and when John Kongli suddenly changed directions, he didn't say anything to them. Now that they heard John Kongli refer to him as senior, it made them all curious. It has to be said that John Kongli had one of the highest cultivation levels among them. They also knew that he was an extremely arrogant person. This wasn't an arrogance shown only on the outside, it came from deep within him. Even the elders in his family were often not given respect. It was extremely rare for him to be willingly respectful and call someone senior. John Kongli was extremely respectful, and this came from the bottom of his heart and was completely honest. When he saw Wang Lin, he naturally saw Wang Lin's corporeal yang cultivation and felt melancholy. He is indeed worthy of being a senior. Back then when he suppressed his cultivation to the ascendant stage, I could not see him hiding his cultivation level at all. Now he has suppressed his cultivation level to the corporeal yang stage, and I still can't see him hiding his cultivation at all. The respect in John Kongli's eyes became even stronger. After he left back then, he was very melancholy and was extremely envious of Shen Gonghu. After he returned home, he was hesitant and wondered if he should have done the same as Shen Gonghu and seized that golden opportunity. With this thought in mind, when he heard that Shen Gonghu was punished by his family and abandoned by the Thunder Celestial Temple, he felt extremely complex. If he hadn't experienced the matter before, he would have laughed out loud and gloated over Shen Gonghu. However, after experiencing the matter at the Thunder Lake, he agreed with Shen Gonghu and even felt sadness. In his heart, he even admired Shen Gonghu. Li Yuan stared dumbfoundedly at Wang Lin, and his mind turned blank. He knew of the name Jiang Kongli. Among the younger generation, Jiang Kongli, Shen Gonghu, and Tan Yanfeng were considered the three geniuses of the southern domain. They were all geniuses that had reached the corporeal yang stage in a short period of time. However, our Jiang Kongli had just called Shu Mu Senior, and this made Li Yuan's mind go blank. Wang Lin frowned at Jiang Kongli and asked, "Where are you going in such haste?" When Jiang Kongli saw Wang Lin frown, his heart trembled. He became even more respectful and quickly said, 4 fragments of the Thunder Celestial Temple gave off powerful celestial spiritual energy fluctuations. However, the locations are sealed by restrictions that can be opened within a short period of time. However, it is obvious that once the restrictions are broken, great treasures will appear. After Junior found out about this, I decided to go over there to check it out. Wang Lin looked at his surroundings. It was obvious that the surrounding cultivators had all found out about this through various methods. That was why this had happened. Protected by restrictions, Wang Lin's eyes narrowed, and after a moment of hesitation, he waved his hand. "Since that is the case, I hope you have some harvest." Jiang Kongli hesitated and respectfully said, "Junior isn't confident. I'd want to know if Senior has time. Also, Junior and brother Shen Gonghu have agreed to meet on the left fragment to join forces to take the treasure." Wang Lin frowned harder and said, "I have other important matters. If I have time, I'll go and see." Jiang Kongli immediately nodded and revealed a look of excitement. Aside from Wang Lin, only a limited few from his family and the Thunder Celestial Temple could made him show such an expression. Jiang Kongli thought, since Senior said this, then I am confident in obtaining the treasure this time. He respectfully said his farewells before he returned to the group of cultivators and flew ahead. His fellow cultivators all looked at him with doubt and followed him. It wasn't until they were far away that one of the women in white couldn't help but softly ask, "Big brother Jiang, who was that person?" Jiang Kongli faintly smiled. His eyes were still filled with respect as he said, "That was a powerful senior. To be able to meet him was my good luck." Good night, everyone. We will meet again tomorrow. Just wait a moment. Remember to like the video. Chapter 781, Qualification. Under the gazes of countless cultivators, Wang Lin flew away in the void with Li Yuan following closely after. The two gradually disappeared into the void. Along the way, Li Yuan wanted to ask many times, but he endured and didn't mention anything about Jiang Kongli. Given Li Yuan's wisdom, he knew that he shouldn't ask about everything. Everyone has their own secrets. Time quickly passed, and in the blink of an eye, months went by. As they got closer to the center, they saw more and more people. Finally, on this day, they arrived at the center of the Thunder Celestial Realm. After arriving here, they couldn't see any more cultivators. This place was completely dark and they couldn't see anyone. Standing in the void, Wang Lin carefully looked around. In the Yao family member's memories, the sealed fragment containing the collection pavilion was right here. Wang Lin asked, "Brother Li, do you see anything abnormal about this place?" Li Yuan began to move his hand the moment Wang Lin stopped. He looked at the place, and after a moment, his eyes became serious. He nodded and said, "There are ripples of a restriction here. Although it is faint, I can feel it with my restriction heart. This is similar to a celestial restriction, but somewhat different." As he spoke, he pressed down his left hand. A restriction immediately flew out and split into 18 into the void. At this moment, an illusory outline appeared in a flash, and then disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. At the moment that outline appeared, he vaguely saw a half-transparent fragment suddenly appear in the void. There was a towering pavilion on the fragment. However, because it had disappeared right away, it was impossible to get a better view. Li Yuan said, "Brother Shu, I need some time." Whenever he was breaking restrictions, there would be an aura of self-confidence around him. After he finished speaking, he sat down in the void. His left hand continued to form seals, releasing restrictions that combined together. Sometimes he would press his finger between his eyebrows and black lines would fly out. The black lines would wrap around the extremely complex restrictions and fly into the void. In those instances, the shadow of that fragment would suddenly reappear and then disappear the next instant. This happened too fast to rush in during the gap. Wang Lin wasn't anxious. Instead, he focused on the fragment whenever it appeared. As Li Yuan placed down more restrictions, the fragment gradually appeared more and more frequently. Wang Lin slowly got a better picture of this fragment. The huge pavilion at the center of the fragment was like 4 long thorns. They resembled 2 pairs of bullhorns going into the sky. There were 4 people sitting at the top of the 4 horns. They were completely motionless and didn't even pay any attention when Wang Lin looked over. Wang Lin's pupil shrank and there was a flash of coldness in his eyes. Li Yuan said, "Brother Shu, if you want to completely break this restriction, it will take several months. If we simply want to send you in, then with your speed combined with my restrictions, there is an 80% chance of success." Wang Lin took a step forward and arrived at the edge of the fragment. He slowly said, "Then send me in." "Brother Li, hide yourself well, because it is dangerous here. Don't get implicated by me, and when I obtain the celestial spell, we will leave." Li Yuan didn't waste any time. His hand pointed between his eyebrows and several black lines flew out. They intersected to form a brand. Then he created countless restrictions that entered the brand and it gave off waves of black light. Li Yuan's eyes lit up as he pointed forward and shouted, "Restriction heart, burst." When the restriction brand landed in the void, the fragment immediately appeared. This time it flickered constantly. It disappeared, reappeared, then disappeared again. This rapid cycle made everything very colorful. As for that brand, it still gave off a black light. As the fragment continued to change, it began to spread and formed a circular passage. However, this passage wasn't stable and seemed like it could collapse at any moment. "Enter." At the moment Li Yuan shouted, Wang Lin rushed out like a bolt of lightning and charged into the circular passage. Just as he entered the passage, it collapsed. Then the fragment disappeared into the void along with Wang Lin. "I hope Brother Shu has a good harvest." Li Yuan pondered for a moment before his left hand formed a seal and a restriction appeared. His body gradually became hidden, and not the slightest bit of his aura leaked out. The surrounding void returned to being peaceful. Wang Lin's body appeared on the fragment like lightning. The moment he appeared, his divine sense spread out. Behind him was not the void but a screen of restrictions. It was precisely these restrictions that separated this place from the rest of the celestial realm and made it a forbidden ground for the 4 great families. The moment his divine sense spread out, he locked onto the pavilion at the center. At this moment, one of the 4 people on the pavilion opened his eyes. He coldly looked into the distance and then disappeared. Wang Lin moved extremely fast and charged directly at the pavilion. There was a ripple of origin energy before him and then a person walked out. He was middle-aged and wore a black robe. His face was cold, and as soon as he appeared, his hand formed a seal and he pressed down. "I have been watching you for a long time. Trespassing on forbidden grounds, die." His right hand flickered and a powerful impact rushed over. Wang Lin immediately retreated and waved his right hand. The collision of their origin energy caused a loud rumble that spread across the fragment. The black-robed man's eyes were cold. He had long since noticed that Wang Lin's cultivation level was the same as his, corporeal yang. At this moment, he stepped forward while his right hand formed a seal and he muttered something. A powerful force suddenly descended from the sky. Shortly after, a ray of celestial thunder suddenly appeared in the sky and descended toward Wang Lin. This is the Thunder Celestial Realm, and the collection pavilion belongs to the Celestial Realm. Why can your 4 great families come but I can tea? Wang Lin let out a cold snort and charged out. The celestial thunder was descending from the sky, but Wang Lin didn't dodge at all. His origin soul came out and devoured the celestial thunder. Thunder immediately covered his body, making him look very shocking. The black-robed man was startled and his expression became gloomy. He obviously didn't think Wang Lin could directly devour celestial thunder. Just at this moment, Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he opened his mouth and spat out a grain of sand. This grain of sand immediately grew into the fragment stamp. It gave off a powerful pressure as it pressed down on the black-robed man. "Because you not qualified." While the black-robed man sneered, he raised his hand and formed a seal. However, his expression changed immediately as his spell had no effect on the descending fragment stamp. The fragment stamp suddenly smashed down with astonishing momentum. The pressure it gave actually made it so the black-robed man couldn't dodge. At this instant, the fragment smashed down. The black-robed man's eyes revealed shock as he bit the tip of his tongue and spit out a large amount of blood. His body gave off a blood-colored glow, and just as the fragment stamp smashed down, he charged out of the pressure. He reappeared 1,000 feet away. Just as he reappeared, His face became pale. He revealed a vicious gaze before turning around and leaving without a word. Wang Lin raised his right hand to grab the stamp and gave chase. The two of them charged toward the pavilion at the center, one after the other. The black-robed man flew next to the pavilion and quickly shouted, "Still not going to act?" The other three people on the pavilion opened their eyes. In a flash, they appeared next to the black-robed man and coldly looked at the incoming Wang Lin. The remaining three people were at the corporeal yang stage. Right now, 4 corporeal yang cultivators were standing there, and their powerful auras were locked on to Wang Lin. A thick, killing intent spread out. Wang Lin's eyes became cold and he slowly said, "The collection pavilion doesn't belong to your 4 families. Let me pass and we don't have to fight. If not, even if I lose, half of you will die." One of them coldly said, "Unless you re at the Nirvana Scryer stage, outsiders are not qualified to enter the pavilion." They had naturally seen Wang Lin's cultivation level, and that scene just now shocked them greatly. However, with the 4 of them together, they weren't worried about Wang Lin. At this moment, the black-robed man's aura stabilized. He let out a cold snort before he stepped out and slapped his bag of holding. A red flying sword immediately flew out, and with a point of his finger, it flew toward Wang Lin. The remaining 3 also rushed out. One of them formed a seal that created a gust of wind, and suddenly a tornado appeared. The remaining 2 looked at each other, and then they each formed a seal. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he immediately retreated. Then he raised his right hand, and the fragment stamp mercilessly smashed down. 2 of the cultivators used a spell and formed a yin and yang pattern. The pattern rotated, gave off a mysterious energy and charged toward Wang Lin. The 2 that made the yin and yang pattern immediately flew into the air. With a point of their fingers, the yin and yang pattern confronted the fragment. The 2 of them also activated more spells, preventing the fragment from descending. As for the other 2 people, they moved toward Wang Lin like lighting, with spells and magical treasures in hand. They were filled with killing intent. As Wang Lin retreated, every step caused a large amount of ripples as if his body was merging with the world. After retreating many steps, he suddenly stopped and took a step forward. With this step, Wang Lin's body disappeared without a trace, and when he reappeared, he was behind the black-robed man. The black-robed man was shocked. He suddenly turned around and the red sword flew toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he pointed forward and shouted, "Stop!" In an instant, that black-robed man and the flying sword all froze. Wang Lin ignored the flying sword and stepped forth without any hesitation. He arrived before the black-robed man, pointed between the black-robed man's eyebrows, and origin energy surged out. The black-robed man's body immediately collapsed and his origin soul flew out. He panicked and was about to flee when the karma whip suddenly appeared. The whip lashed at the origin soul, causing the black-robed man to let out a miserable groan, and a large amount of origin energy was released. Just at this moment, the other person rushed over with the huge tornado. It was obvious he wanted to obstruct Wang Lin's actions. Wang Lin didn't even look at the person as the beast tattoo on the back of his right hand moved and materialized. It charged ferociously at the cultivator with the tornado. At the same time, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding, and the 1 billion soul flag came out. It turned into a large black mist and attempted to swallow the black-robed man. The black-robed man was about to resist, but then he saw the blood ancestor's ferocious origin soul flickering inside the flag. The familiar face shocked him and caused him to lose focus. The consequence was him being surrounded by the black fog. All of this was done neat and clean. After collecting the black-robed man's origin soul, Wang Lin waved his sleeves and the black mist surrounded the area. He stared at the remaining 3 and grimly said, "I want to enter the collection pavilion." The minds of the 2 that were resisting against the fragment stamp trembled. Before they had time to speak, they heard another cry. They saw the cultivator who used the tornado quickly retreat. The beast's bone gave off a ghostly light as it released an unimaginably monstrous and evil aura that filled the world. At this moment, this evil aura was very powerful and had already reached its peak. Even though Wang Lin was its owner, he still felt shocked by it. That evil aura was simply too strong. If Wang Lin was like this, there was no need to talk about the other 3 people. The moment the evil aura appeared, it disappeared without a trace. However, the tornado spell used by that cultivator turned into a stone statue. When the Beastbone's gaze landed on him, the cultivator's expression turned pale, and he immediately retreated. However, just at this moment, that rich, evil aura appeared once more. The cultivator's eyes filled with panic, and his right hand immediately turned gray. The gray spread like crazy, and at the moment of crisis, he didn't hesitate to lift his left hand and directly cut off his right hand. Disregarding the blood spraying everywhere, he retreated to more than 10,000 feet away and immediately sat down in the lotus position. Even though he had cut of his own arm, the gray didn't disappear, and instead spread from his left hand. His eyes were filled with despair, and he clenched his teeth. At the moment, the gray had almost completely covered his whole body. His origin soul flew out, abandoning his body. At the moment his origin soul flew out, his entire body turned a stone statue without a hint of vitality. In the air, the only thing that remained was his weakened origin soul. The surroundings were completely quiet. I'm going to ask you four. Am I qualified? Wang Lin's gaze fell on the two cultivators that were resisting the stamp, and his voice was ice cold. 4,000 words in a major chapter. Read an extra 1,000 words, wishing for the like button on the video to help. Chapter 782. The qualification of a rank 9 celestial lord. The cultivation's families had classifications that outsiders didn't know about. Like in the Alliance star system, a rank cultivation planet was the peak existence on the surface. Rank 8 cultivation planets were very rare, so much so that the entire Alliance star system only had 3. As for the most mysterious rank 9 cultivation planet, there was only one in the entire Alliance star system. The cultivation families in the Alheaven star system had similar classifications, but they focused more on history. Only long-lasting cultivation families could become an eternal existence in the Alheaven star system. In the Alheaven star system, the most common were the cultivation families on the main cultivation planets of the 4 different domains. There was not much difference in their strength, and 3 or 4 cultivation families existed on each planet. For example, the Tang family and the Zhan family were both at the peak of their planets. Above these cultivation families were the 4 great families with inheritances from the celestial realm. They were the most powerful force in the Alheaven star system on the surface. Tracing back to their roots, the ancestors of these 4 great families were all celestials in the Thunder celestial realm before its collapse, so their statuses were not ordinary. Likewise, there were 2 more families above these 4 great families. They usually kept very low profiles, but they were the true powers in the Alheaven star system. They had even older inheritances than the 4 families. These families existed in ancient times before the collapse of the celestial realm and had survived the collapse of the celestial realm. These families had inheritances from the ancient cultivation world, and there were 6 such families in the Alheaven star system. The mysterious Xiang family on planet Donglin and Li Yuan's family were among the 6. However, after countless years, many of the families with inheritances from the ancient cultivation world had declined. The Li family was one example, and in addition to them there were 3 more. Right now, only 2 of these families remained. Just like how the Alliance system had a rank 9 cultivation planet, the Alheaven star system also had a family that had survived even longer than that. This was a family that had been around since the primordial times. The primordial cultivation family was the true powerhouse of the Alheaven star system, and it was extremely mysterious. To exist from the primordial times until today, that kind of power was terrifying. That meant that this family had experienced the evolution of cultivation from ancient times, experienced the collapse of the celestial realm, and experienced the creation of the Thunder Celestial Temple. They had experienced all the changes in the Alheaven star system. It was very likely that this family that had been around since the primordial era knew the secret of the ancient celestial realm. Just the spells that they held were enough to stand over the Alheaven star system. Aside from the rank 8 and 9 cultivation planets in the Alliance star system, Wang Lin already knew all of this. While he was coming here, Li Yuan had told him everything about the cultivation families. This was why Wang Lin was so calm when facing the 4 great families that had inheritances from the celestial realm. The 2 old men holding up the fragment stamp above the pavilion silently pondered for a moment. One of them, Rulai, smiled and said, "For a fellow cultivator to have such powerful spells and treasures, you can be a nobody. Please leave behind your name." Wang Lin calmly said, "Shu Mu." The old man's eyes narrowed and he said, "Even though Brother Shu hasn't reached the Nirvana Scryer stage, We are unable to stop you. You have the qualifications to enter the collection pavilion. Just as he finished speaking, the old man beside him looked at Wang Lin and suddenly asked, "Does fellow cultivator Shu have any relation with the Shu family on planet Donglin?" Wang Lin asked calmly, looked at the person who spoke. That old man hesitated before his eyes lit up and he said, "If fellow cultivator isn't someone from the Shu family, then as a representative of the Chen family. I invite fellow cultivator to become a non-family elder." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he revealed a faint smile. "That isn't impossible, but my current goal is to enter the collection pavilion, so I hope you three fellow cultivators allow me too." Wang Lin glanced at the origin soul that had lost its flesh. That cultivator who had lost his body let out a sigh and felt complicated. When he heard Wang Lin's words, he knew that Wang Lin was very knowledgeable about the collection pavilion. Only after the collection pavilion was opened could one enter, and it required at least 2 people from the 4 great families to open. What happened next was simple. The 3 of them worked together to open the collection pavilion. The 4 corners slowly trembled, and the 4 horns slowly touched each other. A ray of gentle light suddenly appeared, and an oval door made of light appeared where the 4 horns touched. "Fellow cultivator Shu, my Chen family has entered the collection pavilion hundreds of times. Although obtaining a celestial spell depends on luck, and what everyone sees is different, it is indeed completely random. The longer you last, the more precious the celestial spell you obtain at the end will be." Wang Lin nodded slightly. From the Yao family member's memories, he knew that the 4 great families didn't have the power to set up a trap inside the collection pavilion. Moreover, everything that appeared was exactly the same as the Yao family member's memories. Wang Lin no longer hesitated. He withdrew his magical treasures and appeared before the door. He then took a deep breath and stepped inside. After Wang Lin went in, the old man who had lost his body sighed and said, "If we had known he was so powerful, we wouldn't have attacked and would just let him go inside. With his cultivation, the highest he will go is the 4th floor like us. The 4th floor is our limit, but his spells and magical treasures are fierce. We have the same cultivation levels, but it was obvious that he was holding back. I fear that if it wasn't for the fact that he knew that he needed us to open the collection pavilion, he wouldn't have just killed 1 person in that battle." The old man who lost his body wryly smiled. "Indeed, I could tell that he wanted to kill 2 people. If it wasn't for me escaping quickly enough, then my origin soul would have collapsed as well." The old man from the Chen family slowly said, "Forget it. What's the point of talking about this now?" Since he entered, then he entered. The celestial spell at the 4th floor is his limit. The rest will depend on his luck. The old man who lost his body asked, "Elder Chen, are you really going to invite that person to become a non-family elder in your Chen family?" Elder Chen nodded and said, "That person is very formidable. My Chen family needs such a person, so fellow cultivators, please don't compete with me. If this person really does become my Chen family's non-family elder, then please pretend you two don't know what happened to fellow cultivator Yao. As for fellow cultivator Lu's body, my Chen family will compensate. Fellow cultivator Song, my Chen family will also give you a gift. Of course, this is under the premise that this person agrees to enter my Chen family." As the 3 spoke, Wang Lin arrived at a mysterious space. The surroundings were covered in a gray mist, and his divine sense couldn't spread out. A faint murmur was coming from all directions into Wang Lin's ears, but he couldn't clearly hear what was being said. Just at this moment, the surrounding mist suddenly began to move. It was very fast, and the waves of mist gathered before Wang Lin. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a person. This person was made of mist. His clothes were unclear, but his face could be clearly seen. His appearance was ordinary, but he had an aura vastly different from a cultivator. After he appeared, he calmly looked at Wang Lin. He then raised his right hand with his palm facing outward and remained motionless. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. He knew from the Yao family member's memories that although the process was not the same for everyone, there was one similarity at the start. That was the test of one's cultivation level. After pondering a bit, Wang Lin stepped forward and arrived before the person. He raised his right hand and pressed it against the other's palm. In an instant, a mysterious force entered Wang Lin's body. It cycled once through his body before leaving, and a low voice suddenly echoed. "Rank 8 Greatest Celestial. You can enter the 4th floor of the collection pavilion to test your luck for a celestial spell." As Wang Lin retracted his right hand, His eyes lit up and he muttered, "Rank 8 Greater Celestial, I wonder how the cultivation among Celestials are divided. I haven't reached the peak of the corporeal Yang stage yet. I wonder what rank Celestial I will be when I reach the peak of the corporeal Yang stage." At this moment, the person made of mist slowly dissipated. Wang Lin knew that once it completely dissipated, he would be teleported to the 4th floor and everything after would depend on his luck. However, no matter how good his luck was, he could only obtain a celestial spell from the 4th floor. While he didn't know how many floors the collection pavilion had, it was obvious that the higher the floor, the better quality the celestial spell. At the highest floor, even the most common celestial spell would be a top-tier existence in the lower floors. However, the cultivation level test couldn't be faked. It all depended on one's own strength, and that in itself was a type of luck. Only those with powerful cultivation could obtain precious celestial spells. If one's cultivation level wasn't high enough, then there was no need to talk about it. Seeing that the person made of mist was about to completely disappear, Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he suddenly had a bold idea. The moment this idea appeared, his heart started pounding and even his mouth became dry. After hesitating for a bit, he clenched his teeth and a pagoda appeared in his hand. His eyes gave off a mysterious light as his left hand hit the pagoda. The white-robed woman immediately appeared before Wang Lin. Wang Lin retreated a few steps, and his hand formed a seal. He used his origin energy to control the woman to raise her right hand and touch the slowly dissipating palm of the man made of mist. In an instant, the man made of mist showed signs of collapse, his entire body trembled, and after a long time, a low voice echoed, "Rank 9 Celestial Lord. You can go to the 9th floor of the collection pavilion to check for celestial spells." Wang Lin's eyes were filled with excitement as he tightly tightened his fist and immediately withdrew the woman back into the pagoda, then back into his bag. His heart was pounding. It was very rare for him to have such violent mood swings. There is a great difference between obtaining a celestial spell through luck and being able to choose a celestial spell. Brothers, have you not yet hit the like button for the VIDEO? Wish that the like button for the VIDEO would be hit. Chapter 783. The Celestial Emperor's Spell. The figure disappeared and the mist turned into steps before Wang Lin. The steps led upwards with no end in sight. Wang Lin took a deep breath and revealed a decisive gaze. As he walked up the steps one by one, the steps behind him slowly disappeared. At this moment, the 3 old men outside the pavilion were talking to each other. A bright light suddenly came from the collection pavilion and became more and more dazzling. The old man from the Chen family's eyes fell on the light, and he calmly said, "Fellow cultivator, Shu's chance is about to start. I just want to know what kind of celestial spell he can obtain on the TH floor." That cultivator named Lu, who had lost her body, nodded and said, "Cultivation has some relation with luck. Although it is not great, at certain times, it has desirable effects. I am guessing that he will be able to obtain a pretty good celestial spell inside." The final cultivator named Song didn't speak. He stared at the pavilion as his eyes lit up and he said in a low voice, "Something is wrong." The other 2 were startled as they looked at the collection pavilion, and their expressions immediately changed. On the top of the collection pavilion after the first ray of light, 4 more rays of light shot out into the sky, creating ripples that spread out. From the ground, this scene looked extremely grand. 5 rays of light. That person has actually entered the 5th floor. The cultivator named Lu that had lost her body looked at the 5 rays of light and revealed a look of disbelief. "It looks like we have underestimated fellow cultivator Shu. He is absolutely at the peak of the corporeal Yang stage, and maybe even half a step into the Nirvana Scryer stage. He barely reached the standard for entering the 5th floor." The cultivator named Shu's eyes lit up. The cultivator named Chen slowly said, "If he was at the Nirvana Scryer stage, it would be impossible to enter the Thunder Celestial Realm, unless..." Before he finished speaking, more light appeared from the collection pavilion. This time, it was 2 rays of light, and they lined up with the other 5 rays of light. 7 extremely magnificent rays of light shot into the sky. This sight caused the 3 of them to become completely dumbfounded. The old man named Song stared at the sky as he muttered to himself with a ghast in his eyes, "Impossible. 7 rays of light means the 7th floor. Impossible." As the cultivator named Lu stared at the 7 rays of light, her mind was completely blank. As for the cultivator named Chen, his reaction was even stronger. His eyes were filled with extreme shock as he muttered to himself. What cultivation level is needed to enter the 7th floor that Shumu can have that kind of cultivation? Could it be does he really have that kind of luck to enter the 7th floor without needing to pass the test to enter it? Just as the 3 of them were feeling dumbfounded, 2 more rays of light shot. Now there were 9 rays of light going into the sky. To the 3 of them this was like thunder rumbling in their ears. The 3 of them couldn't say a word as they stared blankly at the sky. If it was 5 rays of light, they could understand it because Shumu might have hidden his cultivation level. Although it would be a surprise, they could reluctantly accept it. However, after 7 rays of light appeared, while they were shocked, they refused to believe that Shumu was hiding his cultivation level. The 9th ray of light could only be explained by great luck as there was no other alternative. The impact the 9 rays of light brought to them was too great. It has to be said that when the ancestors of their respective families came when the celestial realm opened, they only managed to enter the 8th floor. No one could enter the 9th floor. After Wang Lin had walked for a while, he finally reached the end of the steps. The step below him shined brightly and a pavilion appeared before him. This pavilion wasn't too big, and it had more than 10 wooden frames on each side. Each frame had a celestial jade that gave off a gentle glow. On the wall directly before him hung a painting. There was a tree in the painting, and half of the tree had yellow leaves. There was a boy under the tree that seemed to be cultivating. On the upper left corner of the painting there was a line written in ink. Call the wind, summon the rain, magic arsenal, lands collapse, mountains crumble, dark moon, clear skies. Wang Lin silently pondered for a moment, while staring at the painting. He wasn't able to find anything interesting about the painting, but he found that line very interesting. Call the wind, summon the rain should be 2 spells. Magic arsenal should also be a spell. As for the second half, the first part, lands collapse, mountains crumble should be the same, but what is the meaning of dark moon, clear skies? Wang Lin couldn't see through the meaning behind it, so he withdrew his gaze and began to observe the room. This room was very simple. It didn't even have a table. However, on the ground was a stone mat that had sunken in. It was apparent that someone had cultivated on this mat a lot to cause this. Wang Lin took a few steps forward and carefully looked at the mat. It looked very ordinary without anything special about it, but when he tried to touch it, to his surprise, his hand went through the mat. Wang Lin frowned slightly, and then looked at the wooden frames around him. After a moment, his expression became gloomy. The joy from before disappeared completely. Even though there were celestial jades inside these wooden frames, like the mat, they were all illusory and simply didn't exist. As he observed, he let out a wry smile. He found that he could only see the things here but not touch them. It was as if everything was only an illusion. If had known this, I would be gone to the 4th floor. At least it wouldn't be like this. Wang Lin frowned as his gaze swept the room before his eyes fell on the painting right before him. After pondering a while, Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he sat down in the ground. He stared at the painting and became silent. The 9th layer, which is where a celestial lord would come, can be that simple? Perhaps this scene is only illusory in my eyes, and a celestial lord can easily see everything. If that is the case, then this painting here is a bit strange. Wang Lin carefully looked at the painting. Time slowly passed and Wang Lin gradually calmed down. He was unwilling to obtain nothing on the 9th floor. After analyzing the situation, he believed this painting was the key. He simply let go of all thoughts and became absorbed in the painting to see some clues within it. He gradually became calm, and his mind became immersed in the painting. As time passed, Wang Lin slowly closed his eyes. Even when he closed his eyes, that painting still appeared in his mind. It was as if he had entered the painting. After a long time, he opened his eyes and muttered, "Something is wrong. There is a faint barrier preventing me from truly entering the painting." After pondering a while, his eyes suddenly narrowed, and his gaze fell on the boy under the tree. He clearly remembered the boy was just cultivating without making any seals with his hands. However, at this moment, the boy's hand made a seal. This discovery caused Wang Lin's mind to tremble, and he began to carefully observe the painting. Time passed once more. In the blink of an eye, 7 days went by. The key thing Wang Lin found was that every 2 to 3 hours, the boy's hand would change. However, this change was very subtle, and unless he was paying attention, it was difficult to notice. During these 7 days of time, Wang Lin memorized all the seals the boy made. On the 8th day, He sat down and began forming the seals. Right when the seals appeared, the entire pavilion began to shake. Wang Lin immediately stopped and carefully looked around before he continued to make the seals. Just like before, when the seals appeared, the entire pavilion shook as if it was shrinking. This discovery shocked Wang Lin greatly. His hand moved even faster, but after a few shakes, the pavilion stopped shaking. Baffled, Wang Lin looked at the painting, and his hand moved even faster. He felt like his body was dissipating, and his mind was drifting into the painting. When he made the last seal, he felt a boom in his head, and his body fell on the ground. His origin soul felt a vibration, and he became dizzy. When his vision became clear, his mind trembled as he stared at his surroundings. The surroundings were filled with void, and behind him stood a large tree. Half of the tree was yellow, and when a breeze blew by, the swaying of the leaves created rustling sounds. Wang Lin lowered his head and found that he was wearing a Taoist robe. He had entered the painting and had become that boy. This scene was simply too strange. Wang Lin stood up and looked at the sky. In the upper right corner of the sky were black ink marks. These ink marks were the words he saw from the outside. Call the wind, summon the rain, magic arsenal. Lands collapse, mountains crumble, dark moon, clear skies. As Wang Lin looked at that line, it immediately turned into drops of ink and fell down like rain on the surrounding ground. The void around him suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a lot of noise. Various illusory figures appeared in the void. He couldn't see their faces clearly, but as soon as they appeared, they all sat down. Eventually, Wang Lin was surrounded by people. Bursts of quiet conversations came from all directions, but while Wang Lin could hear them, he could never clearly hear what was being said. A moment later, all of the noise disappeared as a figure walked out. This person's figure was also vague, but when he appeared, a pressure surrounded the area. He floated in the air and sat down. He seemed to be smiling as a clear voice came out. Today, Master Carefree will paint the opening of the collection pavilion. Celestial Lord Runbai invited me to watch, so I simply invited you, my fellow celestial friends, to listen to me preach Tao while the painting is being done. This is the Tao I know. As that person spoke, he raised his right hand, and a roaring wind appeared. This wind became black and covered the sky. As it swept across the sky, it turned into 9 black dragons. The roars of the dragons and their powerful auras caused the sky to change color. As the black wind swept the area, the 9 black dragons spat out chilling winds. That unimaginable power made people feel like their life was like a candle. If they were hit by this wind, they would immediately die. It was as if any living thing in the world would die upon being hit by that wind. The power contained within that wind was beyond Wang Lin's imagination. This is called the wind. To put it simply, call the wind is like this. It can extinguish the fire of all living things. Wang Lin's mind shook greatly as an unimaginable pain appeared as if it wanted to tear him apart. His origin soul immediately collapsed and the fragments scattered. Just at this moment, a gentle force came from the void and walked around Wang Lin's origin soul. A clear voice laughed. The Celestial Emperor's spell is extraordinary. This spell named Call the Wind, this lord will write it down on Master Carefree's painting. This painting will be stored in the 9th floor of the collection pavilion. As for whether someone can comprehend this spell, it will depend on their luck. When this voice appeared, Wang Lin's origin soul seemed to turn into ink and was used to write 3 words. Call the wind. At the same time, a powerful force came from those 3 words. Wang Lin's origin soul reformed and flew out. His vision became blurry as he flew out of the painting and landed back in his body, which had fallen on the ground. Wang Lin's body trembled as he opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with horror, and those words still echoed in his ears. This is luck. Wang Lin took a deep breath and then stared at the painting. Everything that had happened felt extremely real. Celestial Emperor, Celestial Lord, and Master Carefree, who painted the painting as Wang Lin stared at the painting. He finally realized that the painting before him was drawn by the same person who made the paintings he saw in the storage space. After silently pondering for a long time, Wang Lin stood up. He didn't even look at the celestial jade on the side before leaving. Compared to everything he had obtained, everything else on the 9th floor became bleak. When he walked out from the 9th floor, stairs appeared below Wang Lin's feet. His eyes were still in a trance, as if he still hadn't recovered from the scene in the painting. Wang Lin muttered as he walked down the stairs, celestial spell, call the wind. When he reached the bottom, he took a step and disappeared without a trace. After all the time that had passed, the three people outside the pavilion had recovered from the shock. It was just that they still couldn't believe it in their hearts. Jealousy gradually entered their minds. In the end, it became so powerful that it almost replaced their logic. After all, they couldn't even guess what kind of spell was in the 9th floor. But the more they couldn't guess, the stronger the desire to obtain it became. At this moment, the door of the collection pavilion lit up and Wang Lin walked out. He was still in a daze as he walked past the three of them and into the distance. The three immediately noticed that something was wrong with Wang Lin's current state. They looked each other in the eyes and saw the ruthlessness and decisiveness in each other's eyes. Sorry, fellow cultivator Shu, but compared to referring you to the family, I want the celestial spell from the 9th floor more, especially because of your current state. If you were sober, I might be hesitated, but given the trance-like state you in, this is a chance given to me by the heavens. The old man named Chen's eyes revealed killing intent. The three of them stopped hesitating and rushed out. They took out their most powerful treasures and launched their most powerful spells toward Wang Lin. Thank you all for the support, especially for the large golden gifts from Leo. Leo is so touched he could cry. By the end of this month, Leo's video is facing a challenge in the popular rankings. Hoping to get more likes for the video. Chapter 784, Collection Pavilion. Silver needles appeared before the cultivator named Chen. Each needle gave off a blue glow as his hand formed a seal and a huge illusory figure appeared around him. The figure was filled with celestial spiritual energy. It pointed toward Wang Lin and the needles shot out toward Wang Lin's back. The cultivator named Song had a yin and yang pattern in his hand, and as he threw it out, there was lightning moving through it. It was filled with powerful origin energy as it shot toward Wang Lin. He followed behind the pattern, and his right hand formed a strange seal and a long dark thread of silk appeared. The moment this strand of silk came out, it gave off a powerful pressure and a large amount of green mist. Finally, it was the female cultivator that had lost her body. She opened her mouth and spat out a small crystal fan. She grabbed it, threw it, and then spat out origin energy. The origin energy immediately turned into 6 dragons that surrounded Wang Lin to prevent him from escaping. The eyes of these three were bloodshot. They all held the idea that they must kill Wang Lin to obtain the celestial spell from the 9th floor. They were very fast, and their spells and magical treasures were rapidly approaching Wang Lin. In an instant, they had already closed in. Wang Lin was still in a trance. His mind was still thinking about the magical scene he had witnessed with the wind. As the three of them closed in, Wang Lin subconsciously pointed his finger at them and muttered, calling the wind. The moment he said it, a black wind came out of Wang Lin's hand. This wind immediately grew and surrounded the area. As the cold wind blew, the sky darkened as if it was retreating. The entire fragment began to tremble and a powerful aura filled the world. All of this was because of the black wind, because of this celestial spell. It was as if the earth had memories of this spell, as if the sky had been beaten by this spell before. The moment the black wind appeared, the spell of the celestial emperor that had been gone for countless years had reappeared. The moment the wind appeared, it charged toward the three people behind Wang Lin, without any hesitation. The moment the silver needles from the cultivator named Chen touched the black wind, they exploded without any resistance. The figure that was pointing toward Wang Lin disintegrated as if it was a flame blown away by the wind. This is the celestial spell from the 9th floor. The cultivator named Chen's eyes revealed fear and his scalp was numb. In his mind, the black wind was going to wipe out his life. He couldn't raise any will to resist it. It was as if he was facing heaven's might. He quickly turned around to escape without any hesitation and teleported. However, even with teleportation, it wasn't enough. As the wind blew, his body trembled and he reappeared from teleporting. His eyes dimmed and his body collapsed. His origin was like a fire that was extinguished by the black wind. All of this happened in an instant. Aside from the cultivator named Chen, the cultivator named Song suffered a similar fate. The yin and yang pattern immediately collapsed along with his body. Terrified, he quickly abandoned his body and quickly escaped. As for the cultivator named Lu, the fan in her hand immediately collapsed the moment it touched the black wind. She was already in her origin soul form. Also terrified, she quickly retreated. At this moment, The black wind suddenly disappeared as if it had never appeared. Wang Lin's eyes were no longer in a trance, and revealed clarity. So this is the celestial spell Call the Wind. He took a deep breath and his face became pale as he took a step forward. The 1,000,000,000 soul flag came out from his bag and the black mist spread, chasing after the cultivator named Lu. As for himself, his eyes became cold, and he spat out a grain of sand. It turned into a stamp that chased after the cultivator named Song. It instantly caught up and mercilessly smashed down. The cultivator named Song let out a scream and his origin soul released a lot of origin energy. His eyes were filled with fear as he tried to continue to escape, but the karma whip appeared and dragged him to Wang Lin. Fellow cultivator Shu, please have mercy. I know I was wrong. Not paying any attention to the cultivator named Song, Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and he pinched his finger. The cultivator named Song's origin soul immediately collapsed and turned into origin energy that was devoured by Wang Lin. The powerful origin energy cycled through Wang Lin's body and his face was no longer pale. He took a deep breath and immediately caught up to the cultivator named Lu, who was trapped by the soul flag. His hand reached out and the karma whip lashed out many times inside the black mist. Finally, he shook the soul flag and it captured the origin soul. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as he pulled out the origin soul of the cultivator named Lu out of the soul flag. If you kill me, the Lu family will never let you go. The cultivator named Lu screamed, but suddenly stopped as Wang Lin pinched the origin soul and devoured it. His face was a bit ruddy but was still pale. Without hesitation, he reached into the soul flag and took out the origin soul of the first person he killed here. After crushing it into origin energy, he devoured it. After devouring the 3 origin souls, Wang Lin immediately sat down to cultivate. After a long time, his face gradually returned to normal, but there were still traces of paleness. Wang Lin opened his eyes and let out a mouthful of foul air. The air he spat out was actually black, and was extremely shocking. What a strong celestial spell. I only gained a bit of understanding, and when I used it I actually couldn't control it. The consumption of origin energy was so strong that it almost sucked all the origin energy around the GI realm. If I hadn't recovered it quick enough, the consequences would have been unimaginable. However, no matter how I look at it, it doesn't look like a celestial spell. It can even be called a devil spell. In addition, this spell uses too much origin energy. In order to use it, I need to have the origin souls of several yin and yang cultivators prepared. Wang Lin stood up and took the bags of holding of the people he had killed. He looked at the collection pavilion and muttered, "Unfortunately, this pavilion can be taken away, otherwise, the 4 great families would have already taken it by force out of the celestial realm. But I am not willing to just leave it here, if I can take it away." As he pondered, Wang Lin's eyes suddenly lit up, and he thought of the words he heard inside the painting. Master Carefree will draw a painting for the first opening of the collection pavilion. Wang Lin's eyes became brighter, as he remembered the hand seals of the boy under the tree. When I used the seals before, I felt the pavilion tremble. Wang Lin's heart skipped a beat. He immediately moved and arrived next to the collection pavilion. He took a deep breath and his hands formed the seals he learned from the boy. In an instant, the collection pavilion began to glow. Before Wang Lin's eyes, the pavilion became smaller and smaller until it turned into a size that could fit inside one's palm and flew into Wang Lin's hand. Holding the collection pavilion in his hand, even with Wang Lin's mental strength, he let out a laugh. This laughter was filled with joy. As time goes on, a heavy dizziness is setting in. My mind can't cope. Tomorrow I will continue to burst forth with all my might. In 12 hours that will be doubling the likes for the video, hoping that everyone is ready with 2 likes for Leo. Thank you. Chapter 785. Resurrection. Since I've made enemies of the 4 great enemies, I must be more vicious. As Wang Lin moved, he began covering the fragment with various devious restrictions. He used all of his abilities, using the fragment as the foundation to place restriction after restriction. This process lasted nearly 10 years, and eventually Wang Lin reached the edge of the fragment and left from where he entered. The restriction here prevented others from entering but not from leaving. Half a month later, Wang Lin and Li Yuan quickly moved through the void. Li Yuan's left hand was very sore, and the origin energy in his body was very thin. He looked at Wang Lin and wryly smiled. "Brother Shu, I place more than 10,000 restrictions near the edge of the fragment. When combined, the restrictions are very powerful. If the four great families Danti send their powerhouses, they will be difficult to break. Half a month ago, when Wang Lin came out, Li Yuan immediately appeared. Under Wang Lin's request, Li Yuan completely sealed the fragment. However, he didn't use his family's restriction but various other restrictions. Brother Li, I have finished my matters at the celestial realm. It is best we quickly leave. Wang Lin touched his bag and took out a thunder furnace. He had killed a lot of people, so it was easy for him to take one out. Li Yuan, who was not expecting to leave right now, asked, Brother, isn't he going to check out the fragment with the celestial spiritual energy fluctuations? Wang Lin shook his head. He looked into the void and said, I'm not going. He remembered the 5-colored vortex in the passage and a bad feeling arose in his heart. Moreover, he had obtained the collection pavilion, and the excitement still hadn't disappeared. After taking such a treasure, the only thing in his mind was to leave as soon as possible. After all, this pavilion was extremely important to the four great families, whether it was their reputation or the actual value of the pavilion. Once they find out it's gone, they will immediately begin a massive hunt for Wang Lin. The fragment has already been sealed, so the chances of people finding out what happened there are low. He didn't tell Li Yuan he obtained the collection pavilion. After all, this matter was simply too important. Given Wang Lin's caution, unless he was fully confident, he wouldn't tell anyone. Li Yuan pondered a bit and then nodded. That's fine. One must be at a certain location to leave the Thunder Celestial Realm. Only at the Celestial Gate can we use the Thunder Furnace to return. Wang Lin nodded. He had heard this before from Shen Gonghu. The two of them made up their minds and moved through the void. The Celestial Gate was to the far west, and it was very far from where Wang Lin currently was. While the two of them flew through the void, a shocking change occurred in the Thunder Celestial Realm. Large amounts of cultivators had gathered on the 4 fragments where the huge celestial spiritual energy fluctuations occurred. Almost all of the cultivators in the Thunder Celestial Realm had found out about the celestial spiritual energy fluctuations one way or another, and as soon as they found out, they quickly made their way to one of the fragments. Due to the fluctuations of the celestial spiritual energy, 4 ancient restrictions appeared on the 4 fragments. Some were between mountains and some were inside large ruins. The celestial spiritual energy was coming from inside the restrictions. As more people gathered, there were naturally restrictions masters among them. After the more powerful cultivators reached an agreement, the various restriction masters began breaking the restrictions. The 4 fragments with celestial spiritual energy fluctuations appeared one each at the east, south, west, and north sides of the celestial realm. At this moment on the western fragment, Shen Gonghu calmly looked at the plain before him. There was a 10,000 feet wide ancient restriction that gave off rich celestial spiritual energy on the plains. A large amount of cultivators had gathered outside the restrictions. These cultivators were mostly in groups of 3 to 5. There were some restrictions masters attempting to break the restriction. Shen Gonghu frowned. He clearly remembered that he had come here a few months ago and there was no restriction. Why had such a large restriction appeared in such a short period of time? As he pondered, a sense of crisis appeared in his heart, but he didn't know why. At this moment, a ray of light came from the distance, followed by more than 10 rays of sword energy that shot toward this location like lightning. When the rays of sword energy landed, the person at the front of these cultivators was Zhan Kongli. He immediately saw Shen Gonghu by himself. He arrived before Shen Gonghu in one step before clasping his hands and smiling. Brother Shen Gong came so early. Shen Gonghu frowned slightly and calmly said, It is you who arrived late. Zhan Kongli faintly smiled as he stood next to Shen Gonghu. His gaze fell on the restriction in the distance as he asked, Does Brother Shen Gong know who I met on the way? I don't know. Shen Gonghu's expression was neutral, and he didn't have any interest in Zhan Kongli's words. He only looked at the plain and pondered. Zhan Kongli already knew of Shen Gonghu's temper. He said, It was Senior. Shen Gonghu's eyes lit up as he turned toward Zhan Kongli and asked, Really? Zhan Kongli smiled. 100% true. Senior said that he would come here if he finds the time. Shen Gonghu's eyes had a flash of joy. Zhan Kongli looked much more pleasing to his eyes now. He smiled and said, According to my lord's strange personality, he should have some interest in this place. Zhan Kongli stared at the plain before him and nodded. I presume Brother Shen Gong also noticed. The appearance of the formation here is too strange. Before he finished speaking, the formation before him flashed violently. Waves of formation fluctuations spread, and many cultivators exclaimed. After that, many cultivators skilled in restrictions flew out, sending out restrictions to speed up the process of breaking it. There were many powerful cultivators around the formations. They were mostly from different families and were all scattered. They had a very tacit understanding about breaking the formation, and they didn't fight amongst themselves. Among the 4 fragments that had the formations, as people continued to try to break them, the northern fragment was the first to break the formation. A curved passage appeared before the eyes of the cultivators on the northern fragment. The tunnel was very long, and after the first cultivator charged in, all the remaining cultivators also entered. Several hours later, the miserable screams of the first cultivator to enter echoed inside the tunnel. At the same time, a ray of red light appeared inside the tunnel. In a flash, the entire tunnel collapsed and dissipated. This strange scene immediately shocked most of the cultivators inside, and they began to escape. However, under the red light, they all died miserable deaths one by one. Only a small number of cultivators survived through this huge occurrence. At this time, the formation on the eastern fragment was opened, and a large amount of cultivators rushed in. The same thing occurred here. When the first cultivator saw the 5-colored vortex, he self-destructed, and the entire tunnel was filled with red light. This wasn't over yet. The tragedy occurred once more on the southern fragment. In an instant, the entire Thunder Celestial Realm was bloodbath. At this moment, the formation on the western fragment, where Shen Gonghu and Zhang Kongli were, began to fluctuate violently. As it fluctuated more and more, even more cultivators began launching restrictions to break it. A moment later, the fluctuations exploded into countless shockwaves and the formation broke. A dark hole appeared on the ground, and dense celestial spiritual energy formed a beam of light that shot into the sky. Some cultivators were unable to resist the temptation and charged in regardless of the celestial spiritual energy burning their bodies. After a few people took the lead, the other cultivators immediately rushed in as well. Shen Gonghu didn't move and Zhang Kongli didn't move either. They both looked at each and saw the doubt in each other's eyes. This formation was broken too easily. Aside from the 2 of them, several other cultivators didn't move. Most of these people had broken through the peak of the late stage of Ascendant and were at the illusory Ying stage. After a long time, as more and more cultivators entered the tunnel, there was a muffled explosion. Miserable screams constantly came from inside the tunnel before the entire tunnel collapsed. All of the cultivators inside disintegrated together with the tunnel. Shen Gonghu and Company's expressions changed greatly. They immediately flew into the air, and their eyes were filled with shock. All 4 formations on the 4 fragments were broken and their tunnels had collapsed. At this moment, an unimaginable amount of celestial spiritual energy suddenly exploded within the Thunder Celestial Realm and began to spread. At the same time, 9 fragments in the Thunder Celestial Realm shook violently, and 9 different formations appeared above them. These formations were engraved deeply in the earth and emitted a powerful red light. This sudden drastic change caused the cultivators in the Thunder Celestial Realm to be filled with confusion and fear. One of the 9 fragments collapsed. It wasn't that there was power beyond Nirvana Scryer being used, but a power beyond Nirvana Scryer had erupted from within. The fragment disintegrated layer by layer as the terrifying aura shot from the center of the fragment. Some of the escaping cultivators immediately discovered that the terrifying aura was coming from a severed arm. This severed arm was obviously sealed here countless years ago. Now that the 9 seals had been opened, the arm had regained its freedom. It flew directly toward the center of the Thunder Celestial Realm. At the moment the severed arm appeared, 7 of the 8 remaining fragments collapsed. In the end, 2 severed arms, 2 severed legs, a skull with a left eye, and a torso divided into 3 parts all flew toward the center of the Thunder Celestial Realm. The skull carried a smile as it flew through the void. Every time it saw a cultivator, it would immediately devour the cultivator, causing their body to collapse. After devouring an origin soul, the left eye would glow even brighter. The speed of these body parts was very fast, far faster than cultivators. It was almost as if they were teleporting and were leaving afterimages in the void. Wang Lin and Li Yuan were charging toward the west as they flew through the void. An extremely gloomy aura immediately spread out. This aura was very strong and was spreading out like an invisible mist. Li Yuan's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to spread out his divine sense to check, a ray of red light suddenly appeared in the distance. This red light was very strong and powerful. Li Yuan took a deep breath. He could clearly see a severed arm inside that red light. The second watch has come. So thankful for the praise from the new clan leader. Last night Leo started from the starting point, immediately saw a new follower. I'm ecstatic. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 786. No one can leave. Wang Lin grabbed Li Yuan and immediately dragged him backwards. His eyes were like lightning as he stared at the red light in the void. The severed arm inside the red light was covered in blood, and the 5 fingers were skinny. However, when people saw it, they would feel a chill inside their heart. In particular, those sharp fingernails looked like they could rip the void open. At the moment Wang Lin looked at the severed arm, the arm seemed to notice Wang Lin and turned toward him. It was still a distance away when it swiped in the void. There was a loud rumble and 5 spatial cracks shot out toward Wang Lin. It was as if 5 cracks had suddenly appeared on a piece of white paper. If they touched Wang Lin, his body and origin soul would be ripped apart. Wang Lin's eyes suddenly shrank, and he immediately retreated. His right hand formed a seal, and a bolt of purple thunder shot out from his origin soul toward the severed arm. The severed arm didn't even dodge, and directly grabbed the purple thunder. The arm squeezed, causing the purple thunder to immediately collapse into origin energy, which it then absorbed. This scene caused Wang Lin to frown. He let out a cold snort as he opened his mouth and spat out a grain of sand that turned into the fragment stamp. The fragment stamp immediately smashed toward the severed arm. The fragment stamp descended with a bang, but at the moment it descended there was a sudden red flash from the arm. The arm was able to dodge the stamp. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy as he continued to retreat. At this moment the arm closed in and reached out. 5 cracks appeared instantly before Wang Lin, wanting to tear his body into pieces. The bloodlust from the severed arm began to spread, and it seemed to contain a powerful poison. Wang Lin immediately felt his flesh being invaded by this aura, and felt a burning sensation. He retreated once more, and he was very shocked. This severed arm that had suddenly appeared was too strange. This was the most dangerous battle Wang Lin had fought since reaching the corporeal yang stage. Those 5 spatial cracks released a cold wind that caused Wang Lin's origin soul to freeze when it blew on his body. Seeing the 5 spatial cracks rapidly approaching, Wang Lin opened his third eye without any hesitation. A flash of red light opened up like a fan and immediately enveloped the 5 spatial cracks. In Wang Lin's eyes, the spatial cracks seemed to return to their original forms and rapidly dissipated. In the end, only 5 drops of dark red blood remained. After an instant, Wang Lin pointed forward and shouted, "Stop!" At the same time, the beast bone tattoo on the back of his right hand appeared as if surrounding Wang Lin's right hand. A flash of ghostly light came from the beast bone tattoo, and then the evil aura came out. This evil aura was monstrous, and the ghostly light flashed once more. Gray immediately appeared in the 5 drops of dark red blood as if they had mixed with gray mist. They looked very beautiful. In an instant, 3 of the drops of blood turned into stone, and the other 2 drops quickly retreated back into the arm. The severed arm immediately turned around, stopped chasing Wang Lin, and quickly left. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy as he looked at the 3 drops of blood that had turned into stone. He grabbed them and immediately put them into his bag of holding. Then he took out the celestial sword and quickly chased after the severed arm with a cold gaze. This severed arm was simply too strange. At the moment he saw it, he couldn't help but think of the eyeball from inside the 5-colored vortex. In Wang Lin's eyes, they seemed to be from the same source. That arm is very strong. It is equivalent to the power of a peak corporeal yang cultivator and is infinitely close to a nirvana scryer cultivator. Wang Lin's eyes were cold as he chased after the arm and mercilessly chopped down with the celestial sword. The heavenly chop caused a ray of sword energy to shoot out. When it fell, it was as if it was cutting open the laws of the world, causing the void to shake violently. A long spatial crack suddenly appeared and headed straight for the severed arm. The severed arm suddenly stopped mid-flight, began to form a seal, and pressed it toward the spatial crack. This immediately caused a loud bang, and everything within 1,000 feet of the severed arm seemed to begin to collapse. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. With a point of his finger, the fragment stamp flew out once more. This time, it was too fast and immediately smashed down on the severed arm. The severed arm immediately trembled. It glowed red as if it was injured, and began to escape even faster. Just at this moment, a team of 7 or 8 cultivators from a cultivation family was passing by, and their faces were filled with shock. Their cultivation levels weren't T-high. They were all around the mid and late stages of ascendant. They were quickly flying toward here as if there was a powerful enemy chasing them. That severed arm immediately turned around toward that cultivation family. It was so fast that it got near the cultivation family in the blink of an eye and began tearing them apart. The severed arm crushed the cultivators' origin souls and absorbed their origin energy. After several breaths of time, all of the cultivators in this cultivation family were killed, and their origin souls were absorbed by the severed arm. The red light from the severed arm became even stronger. Not only had the injuries on the arm healed, it looked even more powerful than before. When Wang Lin saw this as he closed in, his expression became even more gloomy. He saw in the distance another ray of red light quickly closing in. This time, it was a severed leg inside the red light. Wang Lin immediately turned and left without any hesitation. The severed arm seemed to hesitate, but it decided to not pursue Wang Lin. It flew together with the severed leg and disappeared into the void. Even after it left, the strong scent of blood lingered in the area. The entire Thunder Celestial Realm was extremely chaotic. The 8 severed limbs each had the power of a peak corporeal yang cultivator. Not only did spells have no effect on them, but one would be killed and have their origin soul crushed for origin energy if they came across it. Only magical treasures had some effect, but it wasn't too much. Adding on the powerful poison in the bloodlight, it allowed these severed limbs to rampage across the celestial realm. They didn't stop but traveled quickly through the void. It didn't take long before 8 rays of red light reached the center of the celestial realm. When they combined together, a primal roar suddenly echoed across the celestial realm. The severed limb fused together to form a complete body. This person had a head of white hair. His face was filled with hideous scars, and his body was damaged all over. His right eye was missing, leaving only his left one, which held a cold gaze. Celestial Lord Xianxia, no matter how strong your seal was, it couldn't beat the passage of time. You wouldn't dare to kill me. If you wanted to kill me, why did you place a healing formation outside the sealing formation? However, I have to thank you because if you had not sealed formation, I fear I wouldn't have survived through the collapse of the celestial realm. Xianxia, since I didn't die, you naturally aren't dead either. Unless you can find another sealing vortex left behind by the ancient celestial realm, you will not seal me again. The white-haired person had a ferocious expression as he laughed wildly and charged into the void. He was simply too fast, and because he knew the Thunder Celestial Realm very well, he immediately appeared above a fragment. This fragment was the one where Wang Lin and Li Yuan opened the seal and went into the passage inside the dark hole. Flying above the fragment, the man pressed his hand down, and the entire fragment immediately collapsed. This was where the 9th seal was located. As the fragment collapsed, a monstrous flame shot out from within. There was flash of red light, and then an eye flew out. The person grabbed the eye and placed it inside his right eye socket. The G realm was sealed into the right eye, but too much of it was consumed back in the Celestial Realm War. It will be very difficult to replenish it, but it is not impossible. However, I have just escaped, so my cultivation is only at 10%. I must restore my celestial origin energy as soon as possible. There was a flash of red from the man's eyes, and he revealed a grim sneer. It seems a lot of junior cultivators have developed over the years. Very good. Although devouring them all won't completely restore my cultivation, I will be able to recover enough. However, before I begin to devour them, I must close the celestial gate to make sure they can escape. As he grinned, his body disappeared within the void. Wang Lin grabbed Li Yuan and headed straight toward the gate on the west side of the celestial realm. They were silent the entire way. Wang Lin looked ahead gloomy. He had a premonition that the Thunder Celestial Realm was going to become extremely chaotic. We must get out of here as soon as possible. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and they began to move even faster. Along the way, they saw many cultivators, and their goals were all the same. The Celestial Gate. It was obvious that many of them had the same idea as Wang Lin. Rays of light moved like meteors westwards. None of them had the leisure to talk to each other, and they were all moving as fast as they could. They gradually grew closer to the Celestial Gate. Soon, they could see the giant bolt of red thunder that descended from the sky. At this moment, the various cultivators began to teleport as they wanted to leave even faster. But just as this moment, a red mist charged over like a powerful wave, and a hoarse voice echoed between the heavens and earth. "No one can leave." A person walked out from the red mist. He had white hair and his whole body was like a bag of bones. His eyes were red, and as he stepped forward his hand reached out, causing an unimaginable powerful force to suddenly fill the area. Several ascendant cultivators were filled with terror, and their bodies immediately collapsed into a mist of blood and flesh. All of this was inhaled by this person. Even their origin souls couldn't escape and were devoured as well. Why do the QI cultivators nowadays have so little origin energy? After turning this origin energy into celestial origin energy, there is almost nothing left. The white-haired man frowned, and he charged toward the celestial gate. The new chapter is late, but it has over 500 more words than the previous ones. I hope not to be hit. Wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 787. Master, please act. 1. This scene caused all the cultivators' expressions to change greatly. The moment the white-haired man appeared, he caused more than 10 cultivators to die. He also directly devoured their flesh and origin souls. This shocking scene caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. Upon seeing this strange man charging toward the celestial gate, no one dared to step forward to stop him. Just at this moment, one person among the several cultivators near the celestial gate flew out. He was middle-aged and was wearing a golden robe. His eyes were like lightning and he was at the illusory yin stage. He slapped his bag of holding and 13 flying swords flew out. With the point of his finger, the swords shot toward the strange white-haired man. Fellow cultivators, please act and stop this person from reaching the gate, or else none of us will be able to leave. Behind the middle-aged man, several cultivators clenched their teeth. They all took out their treasures and charged out. The strange white-haired man let out a creepy laughter, and in a flash his body seemed to merge with the world, disappearing without a trace. When he reappeared, he was next to the celestial gate, which was the giant bolt of red thunder that descended from the sky. The moment he appeared, his right hand formed a seal and hit the red thunder. There was a loud rumble that echoed across the heavens and earth. "Thunder, celestial gate, close!" The hoarse voice was like a chilly wind that entered the ears of the cultivators around him. That giant bolt of red thunder began shrinking rapidly. Just at this moment, the surrounding cultivators began to react. They all took out various treasures and charged toward the strange man. Among them were less than 10 illusory yin cultivators. They were the primary force of this attack, and they were charging straight toward the strange man. "The thunder celestial realm will close and all of you will be my food." The strange white-haired man's eyes revealed a cold gaze. Without even looking at the attacks coming toward him, he disappeared and then reappeared behind a late-stage ascendant cultivator. His speed was beyond imagination. The ascendant cultivator was an old man. His expression changed greatly and his eyes were filled with fear. However, before he had time to turn around, the strange white-haired man's hand directly penetrated the old man's chest. He seized the old man's origin soul and directly crushed it. The old man was able to hear his chest shatter and his origin soul collapse. His vision blacked out and his life was lost. His entire body along with his origin soul was devoured by the strange white-haired man. The origin energy is too weak. The strange white-haired man's body flickered once more and disappeared. The next time he appeared, he was in front of the golden-robed man that acted first. The golden-robed man's face turned pale and he retreated without any hesitation. However, it was too late. The white-haired man let out a creepy laugh. Then his body turned into a bloody shadow that went into the golden-robed man's body. Explosions echoed inside the golden-robed man's body before he bursted into a mist of blood. The white-haired man took form inside the mist of blood and devoured the golden-robed man's origin soul. His eyes lit up and he smiled. "Not bad, this is a QI cultivator." After licking his lips, he disappeared once more. There were more than 100 cultivators around, but there were even more cultivators closing in. They obviously wanted to leave through here. As the number of cultivators increased, the white-haired man was like a fish in water. He was simply too fast and vicious, and he could kill a person in an instant. As a result, it was impossible for the surrounding cultivators to work together. Fear gradually grew, and as the celestial gate rapidly shrank to the point of disappearing completely, the fear grew even stronger. It was unknown who started it, But all the surrounding cultivators gave up sieging the white-haired man. Instead, they dispersed and charged toward the disappearing celestial gate from all directions. The white-haired man let out a grim smile as he devoured a few more cultivators. Then his hand formed a seal and he shouted, "Celestial spell, clones!" In an instant, the white-haired man split into two and then again from 2 to 4. This continued, and in an instant, there were 32 of him. The 32 clones charged out and immediately merged with the world. When they reappeared, they were within 10,000 feet of the celestial gate. At the same moment, miserable screams filled the air. All of the cultivators that were within 10,000 feet had their bodies destroyed by the clones and their origin souls devoured. Their resistance had no real effect on the clones. They often died before they could even act. However, even more cultivators rushed in toward the celestial gate. After all, the celestial gate was the only path to survival. Interesting. I want to see how many among you junior Q cultivators can actually escape. The white-haired man laughed as his body disappeared and reappeared behind an illusory yin cultivator. That illusory yin cultivator's eyes became cold, and he exploded his origin soul without hesitation. His origin soul and body turned into origin energy and collapsed. Even though he couldn't escape death, he still had a choice. The choice to die with dignity. This was self-destruction. Under the loud rumble, the white-haired man frowned. He didn't retreat, and instead inhaled in all the surrounding origin energy into his mouth. This is a QI cultivator with guts. It was a massacre, and as the celestial gate was about to disappear, this slaughter reached its peak. Most of the cultivators were rushing in like crazy in order to escape. After all, the celestial gate was the only hope. However, with that white-haired man's 32 clones covering the 10,000 feet area, only illusory yin cultivators could get within 1,000 feet of the gate. Everyone else would die before even getting within 1,000 feet. As for the illusory yin cultivators that rushed within 1,000 feet, they all suffered the same fate. They all died as soon as the white-haired man's origin body appeared. Bursts of creepy laughter came from the white-haired man. As he continued to slaughter and devour, his originally skinny body gradually expanded slightly. It was as if something was moving inside his body, and this made him look even more terrifying. The aura his body gave off became even stronger. Almost every time he devoured a cultivator, his aura became a bit stronger. The red light from his eyes became even stronger. The scent of blood immediately diffused, and the eyes of the surrounding cultivators were filled with despair. The celestial gate was just about to dissipate completely. It didn't seem like it would take long before it disappeared completely. Once that bolt of red thunder disappeared, the thunder celestial realm would be completely sealed. Just at this moment, more than 10 rays of sword energy flew in from the distance. These rays of sword energy were filled with origin energy and created a sharp roar as they rushed over. At the front, John Congley's eyes were cold, and behind him were more than 10 cultivators at the illusory yin stage. They were all charging toward the white-haired man. At the same time, several more rays of light came from another direction. The one in front was Tang Yanfeng. He had a gloomy expression and had people behind him as well. In addition to the people of his family, there were also cultivators from other families that he was good friends with. However, they were all only at the illusory yin stage. These two groups were extremely fast as they charged toward the white-haired man. Before they even arrived, origin energy and magical treasures were sent out first. The people led by Tang Yanfeng and Zhang Congley launched their attacks without any hesitation. The white-haired man's eyes revealed a red glow and he grinned. He completely ignored the spells and magical treasures heading toward him and charged out. He appeared inside Tang Yanfeng's group and immediately grabbed a person. That cultivator revealed a decisive gaze before his body immediately exploded, causing a large ripple to spread. The white-haired man let out a cold snort and was about to inhale when a fierce sword energy filled with thunder came from afar. This sword energy rich in thunder came from Shengong Hu. Deadly entanglement. After Tang Yanfeng shouted, the cultivators in his group immediately used all their strength to trap the white-haired man. At the same time, Zhang Congley charged out with a copper furnace. He was filled with killing intent as he charged toward the white-haired man. Tang Yanfeng also gave up his personal grudge with Shengong Hu. He waved his sleeves and a white mist immediately appeared. His eyes lit up and he charged in. Shengong Hu and Zhang Congley charged in without any hesitation. 3 powerful corporeal yang cultivators began their attack on the white-haired man at the same time. The surrounding 10+ illusory yin cultivators didn't retreat. They all began using their magical treasures and started a siege. Although there were few corporeal yang cultivators, Shengonghua's people weren't the only ones. There were 2 more corporeal yang cultivators that didn't hesitate to rush into the white mist and use their powerful origin energy spells. With someone taking lead, the surrounding cultivators' spirits were lifted, and they were about to join the siege when the 32 clones of the white-haired man began to slaughter the surrounding cultivators. There were also cultivators among them that wanted to preserve their own lives and take this opportunity to rush at the disappearing celestial gate. There were many people who had similar ideas, but they were all killed by the white-haired man's clone when they got within 10,000 feet of the gate. Even though this was happening, there were still cultivators trying to rush toward the celestial gate. As more cultivators arrived, this situation reached its peak. The end of the year is here, brothers. Give a like for Leo. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Chapter 788. Master, please act. 2. Wang Lin had already grabbed Li Yuan and retreated the moment the white-haired man appeared. They retreated more than 500 meters away. As they heard the constant screams of dying cultivators, Wang Lin's expression became extremely gloomy. Wang Lin saw Shengonghu and company's appearance, and this made him hesitate. However, he looked at Li Yuan and didn't act. Beside him, Li Yuan's face was extremely pale. Brother Shu, I fear we won't be able to leave. Wang Lin silently pondered. This white-haired man was too strong. He secretly compared him to the blood ancestor, and judging from this person's cultivation, he was even stronger than the blood ancestor. This was not even the key point. Every time the white-haired man devoured a cultivator, his cultivation would increase. Thus Wang Lin was able to figure out how high this person's cultivation level could reach. Wang Lin looked at Li Yuan and suddenly asked, Brother Li, do you believe in me? Li Yuan was startled and nodded. Does Brother Shu have a method of leaving? I naturally believe in Brother Shu. Wang Lin hesitated before slowly saying, I indeed have a spell, but I have not fully mastered it yet. If I take a person with me while I'll come to no harm, the person I bring will likely suffer. If you agree, I can try it. Li Yuan silently pondered. He knew exactly how powerful the white-haired man was, and he knew he was no match. Even with Shu Mu here, when facing the white-haired man, Shu Mu might not even be able to protect himself, much less protect him. Li Yuan had a feeling that if he stayed here, he would without a doubt die. This feeling was very strong, and at this moment it completely engulfed his mind. Li Yuan's eyes lit up, revealing decisiveness, and he said, Brother Shu, please use the spell. I am willing to gamble. Wang Lin nodded. He became acquainted with Li Yuan in the Thunder Celestial realm, and they had been through much together. Although they couldn't be considered best friends, they had been through trials and tribulations. If it wasn't for Li Yuan, Wang Lin believed that he would have died under the blood ancestor's pursuit. In this regard, Li Yuan had saved his life. After taking a deep breath, Wang Lin slowly backed up and opened his heart. As he recalled the feeling of merging with the world, ripples would appear with every step he took. After stepping back more than 10 steps, that feeling of merging with the world still hadn't appeared. Seeing that the celestial gate was ready to disappear at any moment and hearing the screams of the dying cultivators, Wang Lin suppressed his anxiety and calmed his heart. He wasn't thinking about anything and did his best to calm himself down. In the end, as Wang Lin backed up, his eyes revealed a calm gaze. At this moment he began merging with the world, and gradually became closer and closer to becoming one with the world. After an unknown amount of time, the original feeling of merging with the world and being inseparable from it appeared once more in Wang Lin's heart. At this moment, he had the illusion that he had become the world. His eyes narrowed and were as calm as water. Wang Lin no longer backed up but walked forward one step at a time. He was extremely calm. Ripples appeared under his feet once more and slowly spread out. Wang Lin grabbed the dumbfounded Li Yuan as his body gradually disappeared into the void. Li Yuan felt a powerful force coming from Wang Lin, as if he was wrapped up by a sword. His vision became blurry and he couldn't see things clearly anymore. It was as if his entire being was being dragged through time and had extended infinitely. After grabbing Li Yuan's arm, Wang Lin's eyes were still as calm as water. As he stepped forward, he and Li Yuan disappeared as they truly entered the void. At this moment, the white-haired man that was being attacked by 5 powerful corporeal yang cultivators, more than 10 illusory yin cultivators, and large number of ascendant cultivators let out a loud laugh. As he laughed like crazy, his hand formed seals and he muttered some words. A layer of red light immediately appeared inside mist. All of the origin spells and magical treasures had no effect on the light screen. They weren't able to break it. Shen Gonghu's flying sword collided with the light screen. The flying sword immediately shattered inch by inch. The backlash caused Shen Gonghu to cough out blood and immediately retreat. Not only him, but Zhang Kongli, Tang Tang Feng, and the other 2 corporeal yang cultivators all coughed out blood and were knocked back. As for the illusory yin cultivators, their origin souls shook and their bodies were thrown back. The white-haired man inside the light screen revealed a bloodthirsty grin and said, with a hoarse voice, "Yes, now there is some combat ability. However, compared to the celestial army, you juniors are too weak, too weak, too weak. You were not even qualified to make me use my G realm." As he spoke, he opened his arms and the light screen around him suddenly expanded. It moved very fast and pushed away the white mist surrounding him. The surrounding cultivators couldn't help but retreat. There were few that were too slow that touched the light screen. The moment they touched the light screen, they let out screams and their bodies withered and became mummified. Even their origin souls collapsed, and the origin energy was absorbed by the light screen. From the outside, various cultivators charged out from the white mist in terror, as if they were afraid they were too slow. As the white-haired man laughed, his figure flickered, and he appeared behind an illusory yin cultivator that was falling behind. He crushed the cultivator's body and was about to devour the cultivator's origin soul when he suddenly turned around. For the first time, his eyes revealed shock and seriousness. Tao merged with the world. At the moment he turned around, the cultivator who lost his body exploded his origin soul. However, the white-haired man couldn't be bothered and also merged with the world. Ripples appeared under his feet and his body immediately disappeared. Not even many people in the celestial realm from back then were able to achieve Tao merged with the world. However, this person hasn't fully mastered it. The white-haired old man appeared 1,000 feet away from the celestial gate, and his eyes revealed a strange light. His right hand mercilessly grasped toward the void. "Come out for me." 5 huge spatial cracks suddenly appeared in the world. These cracks were large, and with a sharp whistling sound, it seemed to rip open 5 rifts in the world. A power clearly different from celestial spiritual energy and origin energy erupted from the white-haired man and entered the cracks. At this moment, all the cultivators had the illusion that the entire world was violently shaking. Shen Gonghu's face was pale, and beside him, Zhang Kongli was the same. Tang Yanfeng clenched his fists. The 3 of them looked at each other and saw the fear hidden deep within each other's eyes. A soft, muffled groan came out from the void before the old man. Following that, Wang Lin's figure appeared 500 feet from the celestial gate. Wang Lin was holding Li Yuan, whose orifices were bleeding and his eyes were filled with confusion. At the moment he appeared, Li Yuan coughed out a large amount of blood. It was obvious he could bear Wang Lin's spell. The moment Wang Lin appeared, he didn't hesitate at all. Almost at the moment he appeared, he mercilessly threw Li Yuan forward. A powerful surge of origin energy surrounded Li Yuan, causing him to fly like lightning toward the dissipating celestial gate that was only the size of a fist. That white-haired old man sneered as he took a step forward and immediately disappeared. Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and his origin energy surged out without any hesitation to form a vortex. The might of thunder came out from his origin soul and countless bolts of thunder entered the vortex. "Explode!" Wang Lin shouted without any hesitation the moment the old man disappeared. A loud rumble suddenly exploded inside the void. This sound was so shocking that it caused all of the surrounding cultivators to suck in breaths of cold air. Shen Gonghu's eyes narrowed as he stared at Wang Lin and revealed a look of joy. Not only him, but Zhang Kongli was the same. "It's him," Tang Yunfeng frowned. He recognized Wang Lin as Shu Mu, who he had no confidence in winning against. At the same time, the origin vortex in front of Wang Lin collapsed was the same time the white-haired man appeared before Wang Lin. The vortex immediately collapsed, and the white-haired man's eyes revealed a mysterious light as he laughed. He mercilessly inhaled, and all the origin energy from the collapse of the vortex was inhaled into his mouth. Wang Lin quickly retreated and caught up to Li Yuan. He pushed Li Yuan and shouted, "Li Yuan, quickly activate the thunder furnace!" His voice was like thunder that rushed into Li Yuan's brain. Still confused, Li Yuan subconsciously took out the thunder furnace. The moment he took it out, it was when his body touched the dissipating celestial gate that was only the size of a fist. A ray of light came from the furnace and wrapped around Li Yuan before he disappeared. At the same time, Wang Lin also took out the thunder furnace and was about to leave as well. At this moment, the white-haired man's eyes lit up and he softly said, "Gate, close!" After that was said, the celestial gate that had shrunk to the size of a fist immediately collapsed and disappeared. As Wang Lin held the thunder furnace, his eyes became cold. He didn't even look back and immediately teleported toward the void. The old man laughed and chased after Wang Lin. "I remember now. You are that cautious QY cultivator." The white-haired man was too fast, so he caught up to Wang Lin in one step. His large hand viciously grasped toward Wang Lin's back. "I don't like cautious people. Even the G realm wasn't able to kill you. I want to see how you will escape this time." The white-haired man's eyes glowed red and there was a harsh whistling sound along with his grasp. In an instant, all of Wang Lin's paths of retreat were sealed. Shen Gonghu suddenly opened his eyes and his eyes were filled with expectation. "My lord, please act." Zhan Kongli was extremely alert and thought, "This strange man is too strong. I just want to know if senior is stronger." As for Tang Yanfeng, he sneered as he stared at Wang Lin and thought at the bottom of his heart, although this person is strong, even with the 5 of us and many illusory yin cultivators, we were no match for the strange man. He is at the same cultivation level as me and will without a doubt die. I want to see how he is killed. That will save me some trouble in the future. The last 2 days of the month are upon us, wishing for the like button for the VIDEO. Right now, it's about doubling the likes for the VIDEO. Very grateful and will return the favor. Chapter, Acting. At this moment, Wang Lin was in the limelight. Not only were Shen Gonghu, Zhan Kongli, Tang Yanfeng, and the 2 remaining corporeal yang cultivators looking at him. All of the cultivators from the various families all had their eyes on Wang Lin. All of this was because Wang Lin had appeared within 500 feet of the celestial gate, and most importantly, had sent Li Yuan outside. Li Yuan became the first and only cultivator to successfully leave the Thunder Celestial Realm. All of this caused Wang Lin to become the focus of all the cultivators in an instant. Wang Lin's expression turned gloomy when he noticed that all of his paths of retreat had been blocked by the white-haired man. This seal wasn't visible to the eye, but his divine sense felt like there were sharp blades in all directions. No matter where he went, it would be like running into a sharp blade. Even teleportation couldn't be used. He was completely trapped here. The white-haired man grinned, and his right hand formed a claw that moved like lightning. He suddenly appeared behind Wang Lin and reached toward his heart. 5 spatial rifts whistled through the void toward Wang Lin. All of the hair on Wang Lin's body stood up. Feeling the crisis, he didn't hesitate to raise his finger and quickly shout, "Wind!" In an instant, a black wind appeared on Wang Lin's right hand. A moment later, it grew and diffused as if it had replaced everything in the world. After the black wind appeared, it immediately swept the area. Wang Lin was inside the black wind as he suddenly turned around. His eyes were black and his hair was flowing in the wind. Right now he didn't look like a celestial but rather a devil. His gaze was like a sword that landed on the incoming white-haired man. Just at this moment, the black wind formed a black dragon before Wang Lin. This dragon was illusory and seemed unstable, but after it formed, it immediately charged toward the white-haired man and spat out a gust of wind. This wind could extinguish the fire of all life. The white-haired man was startled. His eyes revealed a strange light as he stared at Wang Lin inside the black wind and slowly said, "This is called the wind." "Yes, it is called the wind. What is your relationship with Celestial Emperor Baifan?" Wang Lin didn't reply. His hand formed a seal and the origin energy in his body surged like crazy. Then the black wind charged toward the white-haired man. The 5 spatial cracks trembled and immediately slowed down when the black wind blew by. At the same time, the black wind from the black dragon's mouth charged toward the white-haired man. For the first time, the white-haired man's eyes revealed seriousness as he stared at the black dragon form from the black wind. Both of his hands formed a seal and he shouted, "Lands collapse!" A sharp, tearing sound immediately echoed and a large crack appeared before the white-haired man and charged toward Wang Lin. This crack was very deep and spread out. It was like a dragon rushing out from the void. It charged like crazy toward Wang Lin and collided with the black dragon form from the black wind. The loud rumble echoed across the world. All of the black wind around Wang Lin surged out and created a powerful impact with the crack. Wang Lin's body quickly retreated like a kite with a broken line. At this moment, the white-haired man took a step forward and charged toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes revealed decisiveness as his right hand pointed toward the void without any hesitation. A bolt of red light directly shot out from his hand toward the void. The black wind dissipated, and the huge crack seemed to be caught by a large hand and could no longer move forward. Soon after, the crack collapsed and disintegrated. That white-haired man continued to pursue, but his eyes immediately narrowed as he stared at the red lightning that was thrown out by Wang Lin. His body flickered and in the blink of an eye he caught up to the red lightning. He grabbed it and pressed it against his red eye. He was too fast. After he collected the red lightning, he took a step and merged with the world. When he reappeared, he was behind Wang Lin, who was rapidly retreating. At the moment he appeared, Wang Lin opened his mouth and spat out a grain of sand. The sand immediately became a large fragment stamp, and under Wang Lin's control, it smashed toward the white-haired man. The white-haired man's eyes lit up, and his right hand reached toward the descending fragment stamp. There was a loud bang, and then the fragment stamp couldn't descend anymore. At the same time, Wang Lin's right hand formed a seal and pressed forward. The beast bone tattoo immediately turned into the giant beast bone with 4 torns. There was a ghostly flash as the evil aura shot toward the white-haired man. "Master Carefree's withered Daopei." The white-haired man's eyes revealed a look of disbelief. The beast bone's eyes released a ghostly flash, and the evil aura caused gray to appear on the white-haired man's feet and quickly spread. The white-haired man let out a grim smile, and then he mercilessly took a step forward. There was a bang inside his body, and then the gray parts on the outside immediately collapsed. "You re a very interesting key cultivator." The white-haired man's eyes were filled with bloodlust. With one step, he rushed toward Wang Lin, leaving behind an afterimage. Wang Lin immediately changed directions and retreated. At the same time, he slapped his bag of holding and the celestial sword appeared in his hand. He mercilessly slashed the sword down behind him. The heavenly chop immediately appeared, and in an instant it looked as if the void had disappeared, leaving only the sword energy. Behind the void seemed to be forced open as the white-haired old man appeared, but his expression changed once more. This is the sword technique of the Rain Celestial Realm's celestial sword. The white-haired man frowned. His right hand reached out and the heavenly chop immediately collapsed. Wang Lin's expression was extremely gloomy. At the moment the heavenly chop collapsed, he retreated once more. The white-haired man let out a sneer and then took a step, allowing him to arrive behind Wang Lin, and his hand clawed toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with killing intent as he slapped his bag of holding, and half of the blood body appeared in his hand. He immediately inhaled a large amount of origin energy into his body. The origin energy came out from the pores in his body, and he didn't hesitate to create another vortex. "Explode!" as he shouted. The vortex before Wang Lin exploded, creating a powerful impact. The white-haired man's right hand paused slightly. Taking this chance, Wang Lin quickly retreated. His right hand clutched half of the blood body and his left hand formed a seal. His eyes were filled with a hint of madness. This white-haired man was strong. None of Wang Lin's spells and magical treasures had any effect. His left finger pointed at the sky and he shouted, "Wind!" The large amount of origin energy he absorbed from his right hand went through his body and out through the seal in his left hand. A black wind more powerful than last time appeared before Wang Lin. Still not enough. As Wang Lin continued to retreat inside the black wind, his right hand sucked more origin energy. The blood body immediately shrank as half of the origin energy was sucked away by Wang Lin like crazy, regardless of whether his body could handle it. The black wind around him suddenly grew by several times. At this moment, it seemed like the world was filled with black wind. Wang Lin's eyes were bloodshot as he shouted, "Call the wind!" His voice came out from the black wind, and it was like the roar from the wind. The black wind suddenly changed and turned into two black dragons. The two black dragons were extremely ferocious. They surrounded the white-haired man and opened their mouths to spit out large amounts of cold wind. The white-haired old man's body was blown away by the cold wind and trembled. However, his eyes were immediately filled with killing intent. Just at this moment, Wang Lin screamed in his heart, "Not enough! Absorb more!" The half of the blood body in Wang Lin's hand immediately shrank. At the same time, sounds of explosions came from inside his body. Apparently, his body couldn't withstand such a large amount of origin energy operating at once. Bursts of black wind came out from Wang Lin's pores and gathered like crazy. In an instant, another black dragon formed from the black wind. The three black dragons immediately trapped the white-haired man and released blasts of cold wind. No matter how the white-haired man dodged, the three black dragons surrounded him. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. Taking advantage of the black dragons surrounding the white-haired man, Wang Lin caused the blood body in his hand to be on the verge of collapse before throwing it at the white-haired man. At the moment the blood body closed in, Wang Lin shouted, "Explode!" A flash of red light came from the blood body, and then the origin energy Wang Lin had injected into it collapsed. This caused a series of chain reactions, and the blood body exploded. This was an unimaginable force. Under the blast from the three black dragons and the blood body explosion, the entire void began to shake. Even space itself began to collapse. Wang Lin quickly retreated and put away all his treasures. Ripples appeared under his feet as he forced himself to calm down so he could merge with the world. His battle with the white-haired man didn't last long, but it was extremely fierce and difficult to imagine. In particular, those last three black dragons and the explosion of the blood body caused the battle to reach a peak. The surrounding cultivators continued to retreat as they watched Wang Lin battle. Their hearts were shaken greatly, and Wang Lin's figure was engraved deep in their minds and wouldn't dissipate in their entire lives. Shen Gonghua's eyes were filled with extreme excitement. As he stared at the retreating Wang Lin, the respect he had for Wang Lin climbed once more. Zhan Kongli was the same as he carefully watched the battle. As for Tang Yanfeng, his expression changed greatly and sucked in a breath of cold air. His gaze toward Wang Lin was filled with terror. That black wind had far exceeded his imagination. It was lucky that I didn't attack back then. Otherwise, with that black wind, Tang Yanfeng's expression was extremely gloomy, and he didn't continue thinking. This person is too strong. It is impossible for him to die, so I must quickly retreat. More ripples appeared under Wang Lin's feet. At this instant, his body merged with the world, and as he took another step back, his body slowly dissipated. However, just at this moment, he felt as if someone had pushed him and interrupted him when he was merging with the world. His body stopped dissipating and immediately condensed. The little fellow faded with me. Don't be in such a hurry to leave. I can come here right now, so let me borrow your body. An old voice immediately appeared inside Wang Lin's mind. At the same time, a power only he could feel came from the void behind him through some unknown method. It immediately cut off Wang Lin's origin soul's connection with his body. Under this power, Wang Lin's origin soul was immediately compressed, and another powerful origin soul started forming. In the blink of an eye, another origin soul was formed. This origin soul's appearance was exactly the same as the mysterious old man who had borrowed the Thunder Beast. The old man's origin soul moved and completely took control of Wang Lin's body. At this instant, Wang Lin changed completely, and a powerful pressure came from his body. Wang Lin watched from the outside as his body stepped forward and moved. It was as if the old man was getting used to his body. At this moment, where the void collapsed after the impact passed, a completely black statue was revealed. Waves of cracking sounds came from the statue and a crack appeared between its eyebrows. More and more cracks appeared until a pair of hands came out from the gap and mercilessly tore the crack open. A black-haired middle-aged man walked out. There were no scars on his body. but his eyes were filled with killing intent. Baifan S celestial spell, Qing Shuang S celestial sword, Master Carefree S treasure, and the